And what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Boys in the Big Apple podcast. The final episode of the Boys in the Big Apple podcast as we plan to shift around the channel a little bit. But this is one of the longest running shows currently on this channel. So just wanted to shout that out. But also, what's up to Max in the chat, Jacob, anyone else who comes in? Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or a video drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. Again, share this out to a friend, colleague, whatever the hell. Just share it out and do all the good stuff. Luca, first thoughts?
First thoughts, final, episode, longest running show, and what we've been
Your
doing on
mic's
this.
on the beats.
Oh. Apologize for that. Can you hear me normally?
I think you're all good.
Now I'm all good, I think.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. So apologize for the mic issues, but final episode of the Boys in the Big Apple show. A lot of memories through the years. Finally putting it to bed, working on other content throughout the channel. But yeah, listen, the Knicks came away with an important Game 4 victory yesterday. I'll be on somebody's show tomorrow. We'll advertise that later on. Yankees taking 2 or 3 from the Brewers. NFL draft wrapping up this weekend. So it's a lot of interesting stuff around sports around this time.
Yeah, definitely. And then we get to cruise into a very dark off season because to me, at least with the baseball off season, we have the NFL to focus on, and there's just like that 2-week period that's off. Well, with the way MLB works, and it's just MLB, right? After a while, the basketball stops, and then we're just sitting there focused on baseball, which is fine. But anyway, Jacob says y'all going to Game 5. No, that is a hell of a lot of money. We're looking at if I think right now, if you were to purchase, now Tick Pick is different. If you were to purchase probably about, I don't know, 2 tickets, it'd be upwards of $1,000. So that's money I don't have. Actually, maybe I do, maybe I don't have it, but I'm not willing to spend it when I could just sit from home and watch it. But if it were a little cheaper, maybe I should have taken that offer.
And plus, there's going to be other rounds possibly. So if you want, you could hold that money out and say, you know what, this other round is worth going to.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, another update as Luca disappears from the screen here. This is according to MLB on Fox. Because Ken Rosenthal actually spoke with Chris Myers, and it says that Garrett Cole cannot come off the injured list till May 27th, but it's not very likely that he'll be ready at that time. So we'll be looking at a few more days, weeks without Mr. Garrett Cole. But yeah, just again, shout outs to everybody in the chat. Like, comment, subscribe. I like the Jets. Draft y'all did good. I enjoyed Giants draft. My favorite draft by far was the Rams. The winners and losers. I mean, I focus more on the winners of the draft, which we'll get into, of course.
Yeah.
And all these other different things. But some other channel updates. Tomorrow, Luca will be on NYG's channel, which is also Unpopular Opinion Sports. I'll throw the link out in a few minutes. And then he'll be on for the Knicks game. And then on Wednesday, 9 p.m., be here if you're a Giants fan or if you're a fan in general. John Schmelk, who works on the New York Giants YouTube channel, the Big Blue Kickoff Show, and also on WFAN, he'll be joining me to recap the Giants draft, and we'll be talking about it and all that sort of good stuff. But Jacob says, just want to thank y'all for your content, not only during the draft, but this podcast. I started watching these pods 2 years ago, and the way this pod is transforming is amazing. Yeah, man. I mean, listen, I think, it's been a good run with this individual show. Remember, we're not retiring because we still got shit to do. But with this individual show, it's it's been great. But at this time, I feel like it's best to just leave it to the side, especially with the fact that we've been doing a lot of different things and whatever that may be. But anyway, let's go into an immaculate grid. Let's start here. All right, so Here is what we got to deal with. We'll do baseball. We might do football, but we're going to be spending most of the day on football, so there's that.
Yeah.
All right, here is who we got. Now, I got one that could be a shock to some or maybe a rare guess, but I'm thinking something along the lines of Colin Cowgill for the Los Angeles Angels.
Okay. Think maybe left field. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he played. I mean, he played all these different positions. He played. I'll do center because he played the center field the least. So we're gonna do
Okay.
Colin Cowgill, or maybe it's two L's. All right, 0.2%. This one actually should be a pretty easy immaculate grid. You just got to think of like the rare players.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Angels. I don't think Juan Pierre play for the Angels?
No.
I don't think so. Yeah. Maybe there's another player that we could insert in there, but anyway. Did Brent Lillibridge play for the Cubs?
Let me check.
He did. But did he ever play the outfield is a big question. Chicago
Says
Cubs.
Says he played in the outfield in general, but just never. I don't see any positions.
Okay, all right. But I'll leave that. I'll leave that off to the side. All right. What about Eduardo Nunez?
Let me see something real
he
quick.
maybe got into the outfield with the Twins?
Possibly.
Okay, all right. Eduardo Nunez. Yeah, he definitely did. Yeah, let's go with left field Eduardo Nunez. All right, 0.1%. All right, so we're hitting it for our last one. Trevor Plouffe and Ruben Amaro are two guesses from Mr. Armand. Let me just put the let's get the 10 likes thing in there. Luca will think of the.
Yeah, I'm still thinking.
Okay, so Alex 2, Luca nothing. Let's see. I think for the Cubs we could do Ryan Kalish.
Yeah, Ryan Kalish played for the Cubs.
All right, so let's see. Any of the positions works. Any of the position works, but I'm gonna go right field. Ryan Kalish. All right, so we're really hitting it on the nose with these rarities. I wonder if Trevor Plouffe played any other position. I mean, the Twins could work. Cubs. Let me see if Russell Branyan ever played the outfield. Because he's a guy that might fit in there.
What about Danny Santana?
Santana could work. So we got the Twins, the Angels. Yeah, Branyan is not going to work. You said Danny Santana. All right. Danny Santana for the Twins. Yeah, it would work. Any position, to be completely honest, except for center field. Well, center field could even do, but we'll do right field for Danny Santana. Just kind of forgot he existed. Okay, all right, so we're on a roll here.
Cubs.
I feel like he might have, but I'm not too positive on that.
Who?
Juan Pierre.
Yeah, he played, I think, left field majority of the time.
Okay. We'll keep that in the Jack Jones is another one. I'm trying to think of like the most irrelevant names you could think of.
What about Nick Punto?
Nick Punto, yeah. The only thing I see is like the Twins, maybe, but
you can do Nick Punto, the Twin.
All right, Nick Punto it is for the Twins. All right. So we're looking at a really good rarity score here. I'm not doing calculations yet, but all right, left field, right field, and then left field and center for the Cubs. Okay. Jackie Bradley Jr. He played for one of these teams, right?
I'll check.
I want to say he did. No, he didn't actually. So I take that back. Kosuke
Milton Bradley.
Yeah, I must have been thinking of Milton Bradley. Kosuke Fukudome, he could possibly be an option.
Right.
I'm gonna go with center field. Should I go with center field? Yeah, I'll go with center field.
Yeah.
So for Kosuke Fukudome, 2%. All right.
That's not
We got
terrible.
yeah, that's not terrible, but I wanted to keep it in like the low percentages. What's up to Brad? Well, for this
What's up, Brad?
podcast, we are abandoning ship, or at least hanging the hats. All right. So we got 2 and then 1. Angels. I'm thinking of like irrelevant Los Angeles Angels players. Luca, how do you think? Or the Cubs? I'm just trying to think like which one. You were saying?
I'm still looking.
Okay. Let's see. What else do we have in the Ruben something? I know that Ruben Amaro. That was a guess. So we might have that one.
What about Scott Spezio for the Angels?
Scott Spezio. All right. Um,
Left field.
let's see. Yeah, okay. Scott Spezio it is. 0.4%. Okay, so we're on that track again. And then we got 2 more. Right field and left field. Okay. Let's see. All right. Right field Angels, left field Cubs.
Let me see if this guy works. We'll see.
All right. Jacob says, y'all about to be juniors in college, aren't you? I know how much time you guys focus on this pod gives all the more item for your studies. Well, once we finish off basically this week and the next week, it will be seniors. So time is flying pretty quickly. But let's see. We've been doing this show since our senior year in high school, right?
Yeah, March of 2021.
March of 20. Well, yeah, March. Our first show, by the way, was with Cop Pizzle and Deanna Tana.
Yep.
And then our unofficial show was pretty much talking about baseball rules and how irritated we were. And then it just turned into a call-in show and us talking about the Giants. So,
right.
Sorry. So we got left field, and then we got right field for the Angels. Damn. Maybe this guy that I'm thinking. Maybe he. Okay, all right. Nope, never mind.
What about Garrett Anderson, right field? He's mainly a left fielder.
All right, that's one to keep in mind. It's one to keep in mind. Let's see if this player probably not, but we could always check. Shoot. Okay, that's not gonna work. You said Garrett Anderson?
Yeah.
Okay. Garrett Anderson. This guy's listening to MVP baseball vibes. You said right field for him?
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna take Armin's side. Mickey Rivers.
Yeah, I agree.
That one I didn't expect. Okay. We got one more to go. We're not personally streaming game 5 because it was a little bit of a last minute shakeup, but Luca will be on Coach Ed and NYGAK on a Popular Opinion Sports channel tomorrow at 7. And they will be talking about the game. They'll be talking about the series and all these sorts of different things. So that is where that is. But we got one more left field for the Cubs. Damn. Cubs.
Let me see if Angel Pagan ever did it.
It's possible. Angel Pagan. Let's see. Let me see this player, because if he did, this is an
Angel Pagan. Try if you're left field, Angel Pagan.
Okay, all right. I'll keep that in the back of my head. Yeah, let's do Angel Pagan. All right. I think that's one of the lowest rarity scores we've ever had.
That's probably the lowest.
Now, if we were to do center field, or the center field for the Cubs over again, we'd probably get a lower score. But
yeah,
that's
listen, we could live at the 3 realistically.
Yeah, we can. But I guess we'll talk about the NFL draft a little bit. You want to start with the Jets or you want to start with the Giants?
Start with the Giants. I'm curious to see. I mean, I already know what your thoughts are, but I'm gonna add in. Obviously, just
All
want to
right.
add in my
So
thoughts to the outside.
the New York Giants selected Malik Neighbors in the. We'll go through the draft class, talk about the players a little bit, and then like two things at the end I do really want to cover about the Giants and the way they approach this draft. So the New York Giants, they selected Malik Neighbors in the first round, and they were trying to trade up to 3. First of all, let's get this out of the way, right? Let's get this fucking out of the way right now because I'm tired of hearing this on Twitter. Can everybody please stop believing the whole nonsense of, oh, the Giants were going to go select Joe Alt if the Chargers weren't? Ladies and gentlemen, we have to be a little bit smarter. Okay. We have to be a little bit smarter. Now, here's the reason I'm telling you to be a little bit smarter. And, pretty much y'all got to read between the lines here. First of all, the Giants were never selecting Joe Alt. I don't think he was even brought in for a 30 visit. And usually a first round pick, you kind of want to bring it for a 30 visit. That's just the way I see things, right? But here's the thing. What is that called, Luca? I mentioned it's 2 words. I mentioned it to you earlier. When they send a rumor out like that,
it's a smoke screen.
Okay, yeah, that's a word.
Oh, it's no. Damage control.
It is damage control. Yes.
Goodbye.
I apologize for that background noise, the unnecessary background noise. With that said, as far as the Giants go, Joe Shane said in his press conference after the draft, he said, "Look, I'm not going to talk about any moves that we were going to make or we didn't make. In talk of the trades and in talks of the trade ups, in terms of that, in talks of the trade ups, which is pretty interesting, right? And they were still pounding questions. I would say about like most of them in the post press conference talked about the quarterback position. They didn't talk about, oh, you just like this guy because of this, like this guy because of that, whatever. They asked about the quarterback position because there was so much controversy around it this offseason, and it just makes so much sense to ask. Now, I don't agree with the repetitive questions, but nonetheless, the New York Giants have obviously selected a direction. And I think we could kind of get into this with the Malik Neighbors pick, and then we could kind of move down.
Right.
Because I'm not like, I don't want to really wait till the end just to have this, that, and the third talk about it. The Giants selected a direction with the Malik Neighbors pick. And you know what I'm tired of? I'm tired of another narrative. What's that narrative? That narrative is, oh, they selected Malik Neighbors for the Giants offense. They didn't select him for Daniel Jones. Well, for all of the people who came on Twitter and YouTube defending Daniel Jones and wanting Malik Neighbors for him, you can't turn the fucking tide now.
Exactly.
It's unnecessary. You can't turn the Giants could have a quarterback next year, Carson Beck, Drew Aller, Garrett Nussmeier. They could have those quarterbacks, right? And that it would turn out to be true. But this year they chose a direction. If they selected a wide receiver in the 3rd or 4th round, then you could say, okay, you develop this guy, he's going to be for the next quarterback. No, Malik Neighbors is a win now move. I was talking to our former co-host, Boys Make Up podcast at the NYU event, Donald. And he was like, I'm kind of confused the way the Giants are approaching this offseason because it seems win now. The Burns trade and this and that and all these other different things. I said, look, I get your standpoint, but at the end of the day, with this Burns trade, and I'm playing devil's advocate.
Mm-hmm.
This 5-year window they give Burns is, for the Giants to win in his window. 5 years.
Right.
5, including this year. Right. And looks like I ended up being proven wrong. For some reason that this is a win now team. I don't know why. I don't know how, but it's a win now team. And Luca was mentioned. I didn't even see it. Dan Duggan's podcast, right? I don't know what it's called, but he does his own podcast with The Athletic. He was and I, again, didn't watch his podcast. I have no interest in beat reporters' podcast for the most part because I don't know. And also Raf Vacchiano, huge mouthpiece for the Giants organization. And, he comes out to say, I don't know why fans are buying into this, be patient. That's what Joe. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if he said that at the press conference. I've got it off multiple people. Talk about patience. How can you be patient with a quarterback in the third year of a system, second year of a $160 million contract, and then you select a wide receiver? So you need to preach to me how I should be patient when this team has sucked for so many motherfucking years. So, and look, if the Giants make the playoffs, fine. But there's so many avenues to where this could go more.
Do you want to
wrong than
hear?
right.
Let me ask this: do you want to hear part of it? Because I have it up right here.
You think we'll be copyrighted for it?
I mean, it's just audio, right?
Hey, who gives a shit? Play it. But
right,
while you do that, I get to the comments. I don't view Malik Neighbors as a win mount move. If we were win now, we would have pushed Jones' money back, kept X and Saquon.
Well, you have to win now this year, I think.
Yeah, I think you have to.
I'll explain my logic like right now before I play this. The thing is, right, even if, and this is my humble opinion as an outsider looking in, even if you viewed, the first year of the Brian Daboll, Joe Shane regime as more of a fluke, like okay, and then last year was returned to the mean, this year's a win now move anyway because it should honestly just take 3 years to build a winning program. You see the Lions do it. Remember, they were like one of the worst teams in the league in 2021, 2022.
I'm so tired of people talking about, it takes
5-year
5 years.
plans. No,
I'm so tired of that. So many, and then people are like, you don't see that this organization was bad before the head coach came in. Well, guess what? I don't want to, because I saw this thing on Twitter, right? And one of my buddies retweeted it and basically like sounded off on it. He's like, with the situation that Joe Shane inherited from Dave Gettleman, it was bad. And this, like, I'm tired of fucking hearing, why is it that, and I don't know if it's Jet fans too, maybe when you guys were earlier in the Joe Douglas era, excuse me. I'm tired of hearing, the situation he was brought into, the situation he was brought into, the situation he was brought into. Who gives a shit? We're in year 3. We are in year 3. There's a lot of still question marks on the table with Joe Shane's era. And I don't mean to hate the guy, but let's be critical and be critical fast. Guess what? Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn were a total shit show. They were a total shit show in Detroit. They traded for Jared Goff, right? The first year, they went like 2-15 or like 3 wins, something like that, right? The second year, they knock Aaron Rodgers out of the playoffs. Now, they weren't in the playoffs, but they had that game.
They had a really nice stretch run during the end of the season.
Yeah. Well, one of them was beating the Giants. And then year 3, guess what they do? They go to the NFC Championship game with Jared Goff. And here's my problem with the New York Giants and the way they're doing things and the way this is like the process is, right? It is not necessarily the most secretive idea that the NFC conference is weak as hell. It's not. Mm-hmm. But why are the Giants not taking advantage of that? Exactly. Why are they not drafting better players? Why are they not utilizing assets? Honestly, the Lions shouldn't have got there last year. They shouldn't have. But they did all these things correctly, and they went there. They got there. They beat Tampa Bay. They beat all these teams, whatever. They got there. And they're retooling. They're doing their thing. They're making another run for it. They signed their guys in-house. I just don't understand to where the Giants are so behind now in the process, and it could even cost them long-term.
Right.
It takes the 4 years. The GM of the Lions came in 4 years ago.
3-4 years. Look at the Houston Texans. They were a living shithole. I mean, how many coaches did they have to go through? They went through David Culley. They went through Lovie Smith. Now they have, what's his name? Excuse me, fucking DeMeco Ryans. They still have the same GM, Nick Caserio. He got a lot of flack, but he built up his rookie quarterback in his first season was head of a playoff team. That's what tells you that. So again, this goes with my team as well, Alex. It does not take 5 years to build the team into a playoff contender. It doesn't. You can win in 3 years if you really could. But for some reason, some organizations don't want to make that jump. Again, as I said, my logic applies to the same thing. If the Giants, even if you viewed the Giants 2022 season when they made the playoffs as a fluke year, 2023 as the bridge year, 2024, you know what? We got to make the playoffs this year. Realistically, You had Daniel Jones in 2022 have his best statistical, I don't even think of his statistical season, best season of his career. He goes on to win a playoff game. He shits the bed the next week. It's like, okay, let's re-sign Daniel Jones, even though he was non-committal, in press conferences. Let's be fair. Daniel Jones said, I don't know if I'm going to re-sign. He ends up re-signing $40 million a year, whatever. So you take a back seat last year due to his lack of or due to his poor play, injuries, everything. So this year, this is, I think, the year where Joe Shane has to put his money where his mouth is and hope that Daniel Jones, with the decision that they have made, they have to make sure that Daniel Jones puts Joe Shane's money where his mouth is, says, you know what, he was worth the investment. But was he? I don't think he was. I think the Giants, in my opinion, should have drafted a quarterback. Alex, now let me ask this: would you trade it? Would you have traded back like a few spots and then got McCarthy? Or
I mean, listen, I like McCarthy more than most. I'm fine not taking him, but I'm just telling people like where I'm coming from with all these different things.
right?
No, I prefer. I'm gonna wait for Luca to come back and I'll explain my standpoint because again, there's a lot of like variables that go into this.
Yeah, just grabbing something.
Okay, so I got a couple of what's up to want bag in the chat. So you prefer they reach on a quarterback? I'll say this, right? Just because I'm pointing out this situation with the Giants doesn't mean I dislike the Neighbors pick. I do. I watch Neighbors, watch film highlights, and all these other different things. He's an electric player. He's an atomic weapon. But there's so much more than actually selecting Neighbors that is kind of wrong with this draft class. And again, it's going to take 3 to 4 years for us to grade this professionally.
Yeah,
from a standpoint.
That's when you really.
But I'm just saying, like, what do you? Here's what I talked about when Wink Martindale was resigning from the Giants. I said, look, at the end of the day, you got to sell your fans on a vision. You got to bring them into the seats and into MetLife Stadium with a vision. Are you guys going to try to compete? Are you having a gap year by selecting a quarterback? They had Brian Burns. They traded. And here's the thing, too. You look at and I get it. A lot of people will say that's skewed and whatnot. Look how much money they spent in free agency, right?
Runyon,
Ryan Burns coming over, John Runyon, Jermaine Olumenor. You don't, and I get it. Sometimes you got to just put the line together because you need it for the quarterback. Listen, I get that. But there's just so many areas to point out as where this is rather a retool than it should be a rebuild. I'll say something about the 3rd round pick. I'm just like, look, there's certain ways that I like this draft class and certain ways I don't. Right. But we'll get back into it.
Can I play this for just I'm not gonna play the
Yeah.
entire thing. I'm just gonna play it
Yeah.
for a little bit.
Yeah.
Really going back to this pre-draft presser and then certainly throughout the draft is preaching like how the roster's not 1 or 2 players away, how it's going to take time to build, how they need patience. Like, to me, I'm surprised to find that so many Giants fans are on board with that because like you're going into year 3. Like it's I don't think it's fair to expect patience. Like you should be ready to contend. This is the time where you've been building to something. Year 3 is usually the time when you want the program to take off, let's say. And the fact that they didn't draft a quarterback. So here's the part I think got distorted. People took that as a criticism. I just explained they couldn't get Drake May, and I was fine with passing on JJ McCarthy. I do not think they should have forced a quarterback. But had they picked a quarterback, I would have said the patience narrative makes sense because it's like, listen, guys, like we're gonna probably take our medicine this year, move on from DJ, and then let's just say JJ McCarthy's the guy. We're gonna build around him, whatever. Like then I would understand preaching patience, but they weren't able to get the quarterback of the future. So the quarterback is still the guy you just paid that huge contract to last year. So like, I don't understand why the message would be, we're still so far away. It's going to take time. Like you have a 26-year-old quarterback, 27, wherever he is, going into his 6th season. He has the 5th highest cap hit in the NFL this year. Like, why would the expectation not be for this team to be ready to compete? Like I just don't. I can't wrap my head around that message. And again, I'm surprised to find that so many fans are saying like, "Oh, they're building it the right way." It's like they already made a huge commitment at quarterback. and they didn't change course this year. They certainly tried to, but they didn't. So why would you not expect with this guy that they gave this contract to be ready to compete?
You know, Dan Duggan's usually a guy I don't criticize, and I actually had Dan Duggan on a few years back. He's a guy I don't criticize because he actually does his job. And there's certain things, right? The B reporters either cover up or they celebrate certain shit. And Duggan's kind of like the back of the room type guy. He's quiet, he usually don't hear peeps from him, but he's right. I mean, that's just my opinion. Now you guys can disagree. Luka could disagree, but all these signs point to you got to win. And it's not just, oh, well, this, that, and the third, right? The Giants have sucked for so many years, and this is a big market.
Can I jump in real quick? Because I was about to say something to your point. What you just said. There's been no consistent winning with the Giants. They've had two separate good seasons, but what's followed up after those good seasons has not been good. 2016, you make the playoffs, easy schedule. 2017, it's another collapse. McAdoo gets fired. 2022, you make the playoffs, you win the first round against the Vikings, you lose to the Eagles. Next season, Daniel Jones gets hurt and everything else happens. But I will say this. I said this on Twitter. People agreed with me. I think there is a notion, and I like this notion, that possibly passing on a quarterback this year, and selecting a playmaker, and if this decision doesn't work out, it's going to end up just like 2018 decision to draft Saquon Barkley. I'm not criticizing Barkley. Great player. Neighbors has the potential to be a great player. But again, you're not solving your quarterback issue. Eli Manning, the Giants were in no position to compete in 2018. That offensive line was porous. Eli Manning was getting down to his old age. I don't know what the defense was like, But again, you had other holes on the team, true. But you should have known, as in Dave Gettleman, that you weren't going to compete with old Eli Manning at quarterback. Daniel Jones, you guys tried to trade up for him. It's true. You guys tried to trade up for him. Not Daniel Jones, I'm sorry. You tried to trade up for Drake May. But honestly, viewing this objectively, it's like if this season goes bad, not only do I think from an outside perspective, Dable should be fired, Joe Shane should be fired because he's sticking to his guns about his $80 million investment in Daniel Jones. And then you'll be setting your franchise back another year, just like they did in 2018. And you will be, as Alex has said, you'll be mediocre enough to draft a quarterback at like 6 or 7. You won't get the top premium pick. That's not going to happen unless you trade assets, which people already complained about this year, with Drake May in the draft. So that's where I view it.
So here's I'm going to go into the comments and all these other different things. I'm gonna go up and read all your points because they're definitely good points. I get both views honest, so you don't want to reach on a QB, but Neighbors is kind of like a 2018 drafting a win now player when you're not a win now team. Yeah. So what's your expectations this year? Go to the playoffs. Go to the playoffs. And listen, I get it, and I know Max is far from a Daniel Jones guy. Trust me. I mean, I don't know if anyone here is on, except Jacob. I know Jacob's on Giants Twitter. There's a lot of homers on Giants Twitter. They're like, that love Daniel Jones and stuff like that. And look, he's the quarterback of the team. I will root for him. I will root for anyone who's a New York Giant. You wear blue, you wear this color, I'm going to root for you. But at the same time, I'm done with the fucking pandering of the excuses. I'm done. He literally has everything around him to succeed. Everything around him to succeed. And guess what? The fact that this is the final year and you didn't really bring in like legit competition for him, you're still giving him that leg up. Because, I mean, there is a possibility that Drew Lock will play this season. But again, it's kind of flawed looking at the grand scheme of things. And look, could I possibly change my mind and say, okay, whatever, they'll draft a quarterback next year? But the problem is, like Lucas said, you don't know where you're going to be in the draft. People are against tanking, and people think it's a myth that they're tanking and all these other different things, which there's also this point, right? Basically,
it's a good point, Jacob. It's a good point.
That they have this leash, right? That they have this leash, which again, not bringing in a quarterback when and it's not even just that Daniel Jones is incompetent. The injuries, bro. The injuries. How many times are we going to see Daniel Jones?
2 neck injuries, an ACL.
Yeah. Concussion a couple of years ago. So it's piling up. But again, it goes back to your position, right? Where are you going to be in the draft next year? How are you going to be with draft picks? Because the biggest thing I heard from Giant fans this year is, you can't move up because you don't have assets. Well, let's see. You traded for Brian Burns and you decided not to go out here and trade McKinney or Saquon at the deadline because John Mara interfered and said we could still win games. You can still win games, sure, because you're in the second half of the season and no one gives a shit. But then you got sentimental, and look where that got you. A comp pick. Wow. Amazing. And again, it is a weaker quarterback class, and things could change, right? Oh, it could be like a great, a better quarterback class than this one. There's always things that will change, right? But I've heard, I have been talking about this quarterback class for a little bit while now. Hell, one of our first shows of, I think, 23 or whatever. You remember when Brian was talking about the 23 class, the 24 class?
Yeah.
He was talking about Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Drake May, all these different guys. And just because you list names doesn't mean they're going to be good. But
right, of course,
when you have 6 quarterbacks go in the top 12, it's supply and demand. There was a lot of teams that needed quarterbacks. They didn't get him because they were not in the position. And some of those teams didn't necessarily have to. They didn't have to get a quarterback, right? I think personally, the Seahawks, they still could have stuck with Geno Smith. I think it's a solid plan to stick with Gardner Minshew at quarterback for the Raiders. What was it? The Saints was one of the other teams, right? Or I think it was the Saints.
Spencer Rattler.
Yeah. I mean, they picked Spencer Rattler, so that's at least, a little reassuring. But I want to get to some other comments again. And I know Wampach gets some comments I got to get to. I don't like Dan Jones at all. I'm not getting rid of the coach for showing he could evaluate lack of talent and GM in the worst situation he came into roster-wise.
But this is his roster, though, Max. This is his roster. You can't say, worst situation, this, and this. This after 3 years, it's not even after 3. After 2, it's a GM. It's his roster. He controls everything. And this is not like, there's like half the roster's Gettleman's. This is his roster. So he makes, he has to make what he can do of his. It's his own assets. He has the money. Obviously, Mary gives the money. He has his own draft picks. All the players, most of them, if not all of them, are his.
There's 40 for players on the roster. I don't know how many there are. I think it's probably like 80 or 90 something. Only 9 are Gettleman's.
Right.
And mind you this, right? Some of those players were retained.
Exactly.
Jones, Thomas, Dexter Lawrence. Look, we've been doing this for years now. Every 2 years, we fire head coaches and GMs. What's up to Mitch in the building? What's going
up,
on?
Mitch?
Please sub up to Mr. Mitch. Does some great content over on his channel, basketball, football, all that good stuff. I just want that to stop in terms of flipping head coaches and GMs. I just want him to give him a year next because I'm confident this Dable can get 7 wins with this defense, but I want him to get a quarterback.
7.
Right. Here's the thing, though. Right? Here's where I got to point out what people on Twitter are going to say to me. And maybe some people will say it too, in this chat. I saw some people in the chat. Did you want the Giants to reach for a JJ McCarthy? Did you want the Giants to reach for a Michael Penix? Did you want them to reach for Bo Nix? No. But wouldn't you be in that same position next year if they don't like any of the guys and you're sitting at 7, 8, 9? Wouldn't you be in the same spot because you need a quarterback? So what would you do then? And you're not even in a great position in terms of some things, because guess what? Everybody knows if you cut Daniel Jones, right? Let's just say you cut Daniel Jones in March or February. Everybody knows you're going to take a quarterback. So some teams will jump over you. Now, from what I hear, there's the quarterbacks next year, right? It's more deep in terms of how many guys, not first round picks though, not like this year. But
I know a lot of people are saying they want Cam Ward to be the next Giants quarterback.
Right, when Cam Ward has not played a snap for Miami yet. It could totally tank his drafts. And, and people, Tyler Van Dyke, I don't think he transferred, but he was a Miami quarterback. Yeah, Saints. The injury guarantee is widely talked about the Giants community, but only takes an effect if he's injured for the start of the season. What's up to King Jers in the chat? What's going on, man? I have a crazy conspiracy theory. Let's say things went absolute shit with the Bills. Could you see a path to Josh Allen for the Giants? No. I don't think that's going to happen. I know.
Tyler Van Dyke actually did transfer. He's with Wisconsin.
He's with who?
I was going to say Van Dyke is actually in Wisconsin now.
Okay. He didn't have the money for 2 years at tenure. That's how bad the cap was the entire time. That's my point. I get your point. I think we just but he still made
why did
money.
He make the neighbors pick?
My point is he still made money though. Like we could talk about like the bad money, this, that, and the other thing. You made enough money to sign Mark Lewinsky. You made enough money to sign John Feliciano. I mean, those weren't like major signings. You made enough money to have Brian Burns extended. Jermaine Lenore, John Runyon. You have enough money in the bank for years to come to go out and sign Dex and Thomas to extensions, which is a good thing.
Daniel Jones.
I mean, you had enough money there, which, everybody can debate about how those assets were used. Just making a point, man. I mean, here's the problem.
It's shit or get off the pot.
I think that's yes. Why should the Giants go out and win 7 games this year? What does it respectfully? What does it accomplish? What are you accomplishing? Oh, we had a better year under Dable. I mean, I know people say, okay, we got to go to the NFC Championship. Listen, that's their own expectations. I say playoffs, but even then, like, how much is Daniel Jones going to contribute to that? Because if he has another 15, 20 touchdown season, then we're going to say, oh, we're back to square one. And guess what? We can't even trade up now. So, again, the Giants are kind of they're in quarterback hell, in my opinion. So, maybe just go the free agent route at this point. I have a conspiracy theory, and I'm going to read the rest of your comments too. My conspiracy theory is this. I could see if this season goes awry, John Mara fires Brian Dable or gets antsy. He brings in Bill Belichick, and we sign Dak Prescott. It's not far off. Trust me. And I know a lot of people are going to hate that. I don't want that, but I'm just telling you it's an idea. Because if, he gets sentimental, brings Belichick in, Belichick's not going to want to draft a rookie quarterback. He wants someone who wants to win now. Difference is we have a legit wide receiver one. I'm okay with reaching if we're setting him up properly. But, like, you should never reach on a quarterback. That's what I'm told. You should never reach on a quarterback. Like, again, it kind of goes back to the point. Oh, when people were asking me, oh, yeah, you wanted them to reach on McCarthy and this, that, and the other thing. I just don't get that. You could say, oh, we'll reach on McCarthy this year. Let's say we took McCarthy in this draft and then go get a stud wide receiver one next year. Would that have been making the quarterback reach okay? No. We weren't set up properly this year. Again, I kind of like, I don't know. I in what aspect, Jacob, what set up properly? Do you think the Giants would go after Justin Fields next season? I don't think so because of the unproven commodity he is. And I think next year, whether you like it or not, you're either drafting a quarterback or you absolutely have to win. And whoever is the coach, whoever is the GM, may it be these two or not, they probably need some sort of a proven commodity. Currently, I like the roster a lot more than I did before the draft, so I'd be fine with giving up a ton of picks for quarterback. I was for that this year. I don't know. I don't like the idea we say win now. We clearly don't. And listen, half of that I agree with. Daniel Jones is not good enough to win with. But also, they didn't bring in serious competition. And, they kind of, at the end of the day, they kind of knew that they were in this spot. They wanted Drake May.
Exactly.
And I get it. Here's a fanboy answer I'm going to give y'all. They were in control of their destiny when they weren't winning games. And they knew the top 3 teams needed quarterbacks. What did the top 3 teams do? Luca?
What did the top 3 teams do? They sucked.
Well, yes, but what did they do as a result of that?
I mean, As a result of sucking, they drafted quarterbacks.
Exactly. And he wasn't going to reach on quarterback. The difference is, yeah, he's repeating himself from earlier. Dak, Tua, who the hell else? Trevor
check.
Lawrence. Lawrence got signed to an extension. No, or is that like pending?
I got to check that out.
Okay. I just said his first 2 years he had money. Year 3, I think we accomplished continuity and more experience. But like, I don't know, man. I just if that and like if a fan has that opinion, I'm fine with it because it's a fan. You know, we're all fans at the end of the day. But if the organization has that opinion, I don't know because you're not selling the fan base. You're not selling the fan base. Yeah, it's a weird position. The Giants are in. Well, it's a conspiracy, Elvis. So never say never. Belichick isn't going to win. He's washed. Trust me, Max. I would not like that anymore. What's up to Jose in the chat? I'd rather a 50-year-old Brady than Dak. Yeah, I didn't like this idea this year. We had nothing on offense to help a young QB. Right, but you could draft a wide receiver in the second round. You could draft Leggett wasn't there, but there were wide receivers in the second round. There was a chart that came out the other day that said, hey, wide receivers in the first actually bust more than quarterbacks. You don't believe me? Adam Schefter posted it.
Corey Coleman.
Corey
Evan
Coleman,
White.
Evan White, Kadarius Toney,
Jalen Rager,
J.R. Thagel-Whiteside. At least I think he was a first-round pick. If not, then I'm sadly mistaken.
Let me look up let me just look at some other examples.
So I was willing to give 2 first-rounders in a second, and we offered that.
John Ross.
They rejected it. Well, it's kind of because I've heard 2 sides of the story. That they gave up a first this year, and maybe a second. And then there was another report that's unconfirmed that they gave up one. They wanted to give up their first, second, third, or first, second, and fourth, and a first next year. And they got rejected. And again, credit to the Patriots, right? They saw May was their franchise quarterback, and they sat there. Would have liked Spencer Pratt. Would like to Spencer Rattler, Michael Pratt would like the QB in round 5 just to show you we have someone who could groom. True. Tua didn't get extended yet. No. Patriots didn't want to trade down unless we got a crazy amount of picks. Lawrence 5th-year option was picked up, no extension. The big mistake was not trading Saquon when they were 0-6. Thank you. We'll be tanking per se, but just moving on from Saquon when you know where we're moving on. Again, Wampag, I don't know if you caught this part of the show, but John Mara, when we were 2-6, decided to interfere and said, "No, you're not trading Barkley because we could still win games." You don't believe me? That's a report out there within an article a couple weeks ago. You don't know. When I found out that happened, y'all don't know how heated I was. I'm like, "Fucking go again," and we even offered it. Okay, Thagel-Whiteside was a 2nd-round pick. What's up, Jonathan?
What's up, Jonathan? I already mentioned John Ross was also a 1st-round pick.
Yeah. No, I get that, but you have to curtail your ways around it. Like, at the end, we all know, at least to my knowledge, this is me, that May, Daniels, and Caleb Williams were all top 5 picks. There was very little confidence in maybe us and some of you guys in the group chat that any of those guys would fall to 6. That's why the talk of the trading up amongst fans rose. That's why. And was it ever going to happen? Probably not. But you got to figure your way around it. You can't just say, "Ah, shucks, we fucking tried." No, that's a loser mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Go out and get some competition or say win now. Like, again, there's so many like holes you could take a toothpick, take a nail and put holes in the argument.
And logic.
So, and again, this is not bashing the Malik Neighbors pick. This isn't. I'm just saying the Giants are in a very interesting position with the quarterback spot.
It's not about the player, it's the direction.
Yeah. And what happens if you win 7 games or 8 games and you're not in position to draft a quarterback? Then we're going to do this shit again. So, and can I say this, right? 2 things. Number 1, how many quarterbacks across the league actually have a legit wide receiver 1? You could mention a lot of names, right? You can mention Garrett Wilson. You can mention Jamar Chase. I mean, Patrick Mahomes technically is Travis Kelce. Trevor Lawrence, other than Calvin Ridley 1 year, never really had a wide receiver 1.
No.
There's a couple names that never had wide receiver 1s.
But they were able to overcome their situation.
That's something Daniel
as in
Jones can't do.
quarterbacks.
Exactly. So we can get mad they offered a historic haul. It's not rejected. It's not their fault they didn't get a QB. I'm sorry. I still happen to think it is because we knew how the board was going to fall. So you either invest in something else or you bring in legit competition. Again, like we're looking at alternatives and stuff like that. Drew Lock is not a great alternative. So I don't know. Send our group chat. Them trading Saquon. If we got a second for Leo, what we could have gotten for Saquon and X. Yeah. No, listen, that's
mid-round picks. I think.
Zach, Tua, and T-Law did not get extended. I believe I said it was stupid at the time. They have all weapons, and that year he sucked without a top-tier weapon. Disagree with what? Let me know what you disagree with. And also, as well, like,
now he was
let's stop acting like this wide receiver core is without Malik Neighbors is just like 32nd in the league. I'm not saying you guys are, but there's a majority on Twitter like, oh well, the Giants wide receiver core sucks. Like, Wan'Dale Robinson was one of the top guys in separation. Darren Waller, I get it, he's washed and all these other different things, but I
don't think he's washed. I think he's just his head's in the wrong place.
Yeah, I mean Darius Slayton, he's a quality receiver. He might hit his head on a ceiling because, he's not like this highest quality player. But again, a good quarterback can maneuver with those type of receivers. So,
here's the thing: even if you thought that the wide receivers were a problem, you didn't even just have to go first round. This class was stocked with them.
Yeah,
Taj Washington, Brendan Rice. I can name Luke McCaffrey. You could have drafted. You could have doubled up realistically, and I don't think the Giants even did that.
No. I think Max is saying something in the chat. For example, for me to be comfortable with taking a player McCarthy, I need a wide receiver 1. Listen, I get it. McCarthy needs a little bit better of a supporting cast than most quarterbacks. I'm not going to deny that. But also as well,
you could draft a wide receiver 1 in the 3rd round,
second, 3rd round. Again, I bring up the bust rates with first-round wide receivers. It's not an ultimate guarantee. Leggett could be something, and he was picked at the end of the 1st round, right? Keon Coleman's probably going to be a wide receiver 1 in Buffalo. Lad McConkey, he's the number 1 right now in Los Angeles. So again, there's guys you get in the 2nd round that will pan out, and if you here's the thing, right? We're talking about how Dable can develop guys with like low talent and stuff like that. If you have that trust, maybe he could do that with the quarterbacks next year. You should have that trust that he's going to be able to do that with a wide receiver. I mean, Isaiah Hodgins is a perfect example. He was a practice squad guy over in Buffalo. And for 1 season, he was actually pretty good. So, I feel like the Giants went BPA and just said, They said we tried. We had picked 47, 13 wide receivers went before that pick. Well, I mean, you could also trade up for a wide receiver. I know people don't want to hear that. And you know what? Let me say this right now. The Giants traded up twice last year's draft. Just saying. Bryce will be on a loaded wide receiver core. Who did he go to?
Chargers.
I would say that's a loaded receiver core, but
I'll double check with you.
Lad.
I think he went to the Chargers.
Those are 2 good picks.
Yeah, they picked a lot. They picked how many draft picks did they pick or some shit? Because I'm looking like there's a bunch of orange.
If you win less than 5 games, then your odds are up. They
have McConkey, Josh Palmer, Brendan Rice, Quentin Johnston. So that's a lot of young talent they have to mold.
Yeah,
it's like they're with their ceiling. Well, if they play to their potential, that's going to be a really good wide receiver core.
And Puka Nacua, wide receiver 1 on his own, in my opinion. Cooper Kupp wasn't he out like half the year last year? Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, he came back and he still put up numbers.
Yeah.
And just another thing, Cooper Kupp was a 3rd round. Cooper Kupp was a 3rd round wide receiver.
Devontae Adams, Antonio Brown.
We could sit here all day until midnight and just name wide receivers that were selected in the mid rounds that became successful.
Right.
Amari Cooper, I think, was a first rounder.
Defense went heavy in the second round. Wide receiver fell there. There was plenty at 47 for the Giants. I think Giants get over 5 wins. How many wins for Dable to keep his job, in your opinion? I'd say about 6 to 7 minimum. It depends on like how shit goes, right? If you have a bad fall at the end of the season, you win 5-6 games, like you don't win a single game straight, and Dable embarrasses himself, then that's when he's going to get fired. But if you struggle to start the season and then you kind of find a mold in the second half, that's what's going to save his job. So it's not just about the wins. It's also about, hey, this, and this, how it goes. How does Daniel Jones do? Because you're kind of, reinforcing that narrative. How does Malik Neighbors do? How does the locker room handle itself? How does the defense do under Shane Bowen? So they have Ladd McConkey and who? But yeah,
Ladd McConkey, Brendan Rice, Joshua Palmer, Cornelius Johnson, and Quentin Johnston.
Yeah. But as far as Neighbors goes, and I'm going to talk about something else, not necessarily this subject, but I want to talk about something else that kind of ticked me off a little bit, and it wasn't about the quarterback position.
Okay.
And you could say maybe it is about the quarterback position, but I'm going to get that when we get to the third round pick. Malik Neighbors, right? Makes defenders think in the yak display. That's what I love about Malik Neighbors. He makes defenders think, and he's going to be an immediate number one wide receiver impact. The problem is that, a lot of people talk about is how good is Daniel Jones going to be with him, because, we were supposed to have that wide receiver one with Golladay and then Tony and all these other different things. And Waller was kind of supposed to be that number one target. And obviously that didn't happen. So I think this will be a tell all year, right?
Right.
I would have been splendid with Marvin Harrison Jr. He didn't fall to the Giants, obviously, and now he's in Arizona. But he was a guy that overcame serious quarterback issues with Kyle McCord. McCord sucked. So I need to see that now from Neighbors. And it's not going to be all Neighbors' fault if said thing happens, because apparently he didn't get along with Jaden Daniels at certain points, in the time he was at LSU, because he didn't throw the ball enough to him. But whatever that is, that's letting bygones be bygones. But Neighbors going to be the best wide receiver in this core. He's going to line up at all positions, slot. Sometimes they'll even do end arounds with him. Again, yak ability, turning slants and taking it to the house. The Giants haven't had a legitimate wide receiver like this in a long time. So that's where you could say the positives fall in. I know that was obviously clouded with some of the negativity. Again, I like the pick, just don't like the situation. I honestly don't even care anymore, but I'll watch because I'm a sicko. Listen, I'll say this, right? Even though that I may have a grim perspective of the direction of the New York Giants, I'm still excited for football season. You think I'm not excited to go to training camp and record videos and do recaps and stuff like that? I'm hella excited. Getting to talk with the fans again and all these other different things. Maybe I'm planning to go to an away game or two. That's going to be hella exciting. Hopefully the Carolina games in the warm weather, not the cold weather. Let's see. I think the defense isn't going to tank that much. I think we need to see if the offense is any better. Yeah, you need to score more than 18 points a game. I agree with the fact that Waller didn't actually do bad at the start of the year. He just didn't have the impact we expected, and then he got hurt, and now we know he's pretty washed. I'm excited for the defense. It was really good last year, and it looks even better this year. Yeah, I could agree with most of the sentiment. So speaking of defense, we'll go over to probably my first or second. I'm going to say my favorite pick of the draft. That's Tyler Nubin. Tyler Nubin, the safety. Now, I actually called this pick on stream. I think it was Armin that was with us. Miz was with us.
Dan.
And Dan was with us of the Afterburners. And
Mac.
I'm like, what?
I was saying Mac was with us as well.
Mac was with us as well. And I'm like, the New York Giants, watch. They're going to go ahead here and take Tyler Nubin. And I didn't know much about Tyler Nubin. There was a name that floated around, top 30 visits, second round pick. I'm like, okay, we'll see. What happens.
Can I say real quick? I've been hearing of Nubin since last year. I've been hearing he's a ball hawk. He'd be great. He'd be great for any NFL team. So keep talking about him.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at him, and then he's also falling under a defensive coordinator who loves to play with safeties and do all these certain things. Luca brings it up. He's a ball hawk. I've watched film on him already. He is an absolute ball hawk. His instincts are unmatched. He has 13 interceptions in a 5-year collegiate career. He's an older player, but 13 interceptions, and he's had 4 straight seasons with an interception. At least one. 2019, he played 5 games. Bleh. 2020, 1 interception, 3 in 21, 4 in 22, and 5 in 23. So he's a ball hawk. His instincts are unmatched, in my opinion. And I think, again, he is the best New York Giants draft pick in this class. He plays deep, box, all these other different things. He could be in man coverage, man zone. He knows how to snap on routes. So I really love that about Tyler Nubin. And, I know that Giant fans have been fighting, over Twitter. Oh, is he going to be as good as McKinney and stuff like that? I'm like, for as good of a player as Xavier McKinney is, we need to stop acting as if he was this Pro Bowl fucking safety like Landon Collins.
Yeah.
I think Tyler Nubin, now, respectfully, McKinney was a first-round guy that fell to the second round. I'm no homerism because you guys already heard me being critical earlier. I think Nubin can be better than a guy like Xavier McKinney. Cheaper option, second round. Jason Pinnock had a couple interceptions last year. I think this is a legitimate safety tandem. Now, with the next pick, I have a problem with for certain reasons, but I'll get to that. Nubin, love the pick. I also love the raw emotion that he had over the phone, and he's ready to play and all this other stuff. So can't wait training camp when, these guys finally start getting the shoes on, the pads on. Like, it just sucks so effing bad that football season is so many months away.
Yeah,
and
it's
we're just going to sit through a boring summer. And with all due respect to the Yankees, look, the Yankees are playing really well. They had a tough stretch, 2 games against the A's and the Brewers, and then they started beating the shit out of them this weekend. But oh my God, we have to wait this many weeks till football.
Yeah, listen, we're approaching the dead time, so
yeah. Bro, he's a true ball hawk. I'll get into it eventually. Sick of the optimism, only to let down. But also, Giants are just boring. That it can at least be entertaining. Yeah, the entertaining part could be Malik Neighbors. Like, I don't think a defense is going to bring anyone into the house, unless they're winning football games. And this is not the 1984 season anymore. Defense is not the centric point of the NFL. It is offense. And then I didn't think Nubin would have fallen to us. It was an interesting strategy to see how things went because you had wide receivers kind of go, and that's where certain guys traded up. Keon Coleman, the Chargers traded up for, I think the Chargers traded up for McConkey, or he was just sitting there for them. There was a couple of other wide receivers that were taken within the first round, and then also the second round too. And then you saw corners start to go. Like Rakestraw wasn't taken. Kool-Aid was taken. I'm like, fuck, they took Kool-Aid. Then they took Max Melton. I'm like, fuck, they took Max Melton. So I'm like, you know what? Just give me O-line or Tyler Nubin. They gave me Tyler Nubin, and I was happy with that. So let's see. Nubin Sexy Dexy is going to put butts in seats.
It's not.
I disagree. Like, listen, I love those players.
He said it's not going to put butts in seats.
Oh, all right. Yeah, no, you're right. My bad for miss. Yeah, the Chargers did trade up, so I am right with that. Now moving to the next pick, right? And people will call me critical and all these other different things. If you guys remember, we actually got to one of the first players. This may have been the first player we actually scouted on this podcast this year. Was Andrew Phillips. Back, right. I think it was after ours. It wasn't. I don't think it was the Monday we came back from the Senior Bowl, but it was probably
maybe the Monday after.
Probably the Monday after. Came back from the Senior Bowl. I mean, Phillips he wasn't like great at the Senior Bowl, but he was okay. Like, he wasn't like Quinyon Mitchell.
Right.
Here's my problem with the Phillips pick. Right. I watched Phillips multiple times. I've watched him on film. I have a scouting report on him. And all these different things, right? And I don't think he has the frame, the size, and I just don't think he could play outside corner in the NFL. I don't think the Giants solved the need with that. I think they maybe said, okay, this, and this. Maybe if Darnay Holmes is not our starter, or we just leave, we let Holmes compete in camp with Phillips. And these two guys battle it out who wins, and then the other guy gets to the bench. So if it's Phillips, he waits, he gets started on special teams, whatever. One of my biggest problems with Phillips is his tackling. Change the nickel. I don't under. I'm obviously not going off on Max here, but that's just like that's where I don't understand the pick. I like Phillips as a prospect. I think his tackling could be very much coachable, right? By Jerome Henderson, all these other different guys they brought in, the assistants. Okay. I think he'd be coached. If you put him in the slot, he's a great run defender. The problem is he can't tackle worth a shit. And again, he cannot play on the outside. That's my opinion. He played on the outside in Kentucky, but he cannot play on the outside regularly. And Joe Shane said he's a nickel, according to Max in the chat. What need did you solve? If you brought in an Akello Witherspoon, or you drafted a guy like TJ Tampa, or this, that, and the third, okay, I could get along with the Andrew Phillips pick. My problem is you put Andrew Phillips in the slot. Darnay Holmes is already there. You don't know what Cordell Flott is because he doesn't understand zone concepts. So you have either Cordell Flott or Nick McLeod as corner 2. Now, the best thing you could hope for, if the Giants are even looking in that direction, is look, kind of like what happened with Michael Gallup today, signed a $3 million 1-year contract. Akello Witherspoon is still a free agent. He's a guy that played really, really well for the Rams last year. Okay, if you pick him up, you're not going to hear a peep about this pick. But if they don't pick him up, and you go into the season with Phillips as your corner in the slot and Banks and McLeod, that doesn't spell right, especially within this division. That's the way I see it. I mean, I have something else to go off of, but Luca, if you have any thoughts and you want to get to the comments too.
No, listen, it's almost like the Giants have drafted a lot of slot corners over the years, except Deontay Banks. But, obviously you said it doesn't solve a need. We looked at his film. Obviously needs tackling help. Obviously that's coachable. But it creates a lot of questions. I think the Giants should still sign if they're planning, again, this goes along with direction 2. They need to grab a corner, I think, in free agency to solidify this pick at least. The question is as well, who do they find? Who do they think is going to be that, cornerback 2, and who's the future slot?
Yeah, definitely. As far as the comments go, I think they want Flott and McLeod to compete for corner 2. I think Drew Phillips is better than Darnay Holmes. Listen, I think he could be better than Darnay Holmes, but drafting a nickel corner in the 3rd round when you need it outside is kind of a bizarre strategy. I think they want, and look, Flott could maybe understand zone concepts a little bit more, and listen, it could work out. I like Cordell Flott, but unfortunately, it looks like right now he doesn't really fit the system.
Right.
Here's my other problem, and this is going to go a little bit towards the Daniel Jones thing and all these other different things. The Giants had a couple old linemen still on the board with this pick. They had Cooper Beebe, and they also had a guy in Christian Mahogany who went later, and I think the Lions are going to get a steal out of that kid. They also had Christian Haynes out of UConn. So here's my main, and then, again, the Phillips pick, the fact that it's a slot corner pick, and then you also have the fact that you didn't select O-line the entire draft, kind of boggles my mind a little bit, right? And again, nothing against Andrew Phillips, Dory Jackson 2.0. Wait, you talking about Flott, or you talking about Andrew Phillips? Let me know. But here's the thing. Here's the thing I hate from, I don't really understand from Giant fans. And sure, lament it into the subject of what we talked about earlier with the Joe Alt smokescreen. The Giants were the only team in the NFL draft process this year to not select a D lineman or an O lineman.
Mm-hmm.
How does that make sense? Now, you look at the O-line room. You want to sit here and tell me, oh, well, they didn't have a starting spot open. Okay. I can live with that. Because ideologically, offensive line looks something like this. Thomas, Neal, Schmitz, Lemonor, and Runyon, in any specific order you want to put it in. Fine by me. The Giants, in my opinion, did a little bit a better job of free agent linemen than they did in 21. Now, what do I mean by that? The Giants didn't select a single offensive lineman in the 21 draft. They decided to wait till the last minute and trade for all these guys. It was a complete shit show. And yes, again, they have better, talent brought in. Matt Nelson, Aaron Stinney, Austin Schlodman, these different guys. You know why they were brought in? They were brought in because Marcus McKeithen and Josh Azudu aren't good. And let's face facts, right? Josh Azudu, though he's contributed, and I hate this fucking argument that I get. Oh, well, Josh Azudu, he's a contributor, and you shouldn't count him out. First of all, don't tell me how to think unless you come up with facts. 2, dude has ended up on IR the last 2 seasons. So tell me why we should rely on him some people are still penciling him as a starter. Why is he a starter when you invested all this money in O-line?
And you still have Evan Neal to work out.
You still have Evan Neal to work out, yes. Right. So why are we penciling him as a starter when he's first of all, he's still not good. He's another one that needs to work out. So people are talking about how Evan Neal needs to work out, which fine, that's a fair argument. He's a first round pick. Penciling Josh Azudu in the lineup, why? Why should they do that? They signed again Stinney, they signed Schlodman, they signed all these other guys. And here's the problem I have. It's it's not even about the win now or the rebuild process. I look at, different teams across the NFL, and usually they come out with like very good swing tackles, very good swing guards that they draft. And this was one of the deepest O-line classes that I've seen ever since I started covering the draft. The Javian Cohens of the world, the Isaiah Adams, Christian Haynes. The names are fucking endless. And you had teams totally rebuild their offensive line with this draft. The fucking Pittsburgh Steelers took 3 guys within a matter of 5 rounds. Mason McCormick, who could be probably their backup center. You got Troy Fatanu, their left tackle or right tackle, depending on how they figure it out. And I'm missing one other guy they drafted.
Zach Frazier
to be their center. 2 out of those 3 guys, now they might not pencil them in automatically because we know how Pittsburgh does it. They didn't pencil in a guy Broderick Jones last year, but Schlodman, Stinney, Matt Nelson, all those guys, the depth guys, are 1-year deals. And what if Azudu gets hurt? And what if Stinney gets hurt? What if these guys are not good? I'm talking about just the baseline of sustainability.
Right.
Sustainability within getting some of these O-linemen and molding them into good swing tackles. And I get it. McKeithen, Joe Shane probably doesn't want to move off of these guys because he's their draft picks. They're from his first draft class. I just don't see why, because they very well could be beaten out in camp. Let's just say, for instance, Schlodman goes in there, Nelson, Stinney, all these guys. They beat out McKeithen in camp, and they beat out Azudu in camp. And then those guys they play either well, they play decent, whatever, and then they go off in free agency in 25. What are the Giants left with? Now they got to draft a swing tackle. Yeah, now they got to draft a swing guard. And who knows, it may not be as strong of a class as it was in 24. That's kind of my argument here. And again, did you need a starter on the O-line? No. I'm just sick and tired of this argument. I know the chat's blowing up a little bit. Sick and tired of this argument of, oh, well, you spent free agent assets. You don't need to go in the draft. That's such a bullshit cop-out excuse.
You supplement through free agency, you build through the draft.
Are you purposely trying to quote Joe Shane?
No, I'm serious. That's how it works.
That's what Joe Shane says.
I know, but that's how it should work.
But get to the comments here. We only had 6 picks. I'd have taken both O-line, D-line, but if you told me pick one, it would have been O-line because the D-line is the least good. I don't have Azudu as a starter at all. I wanted Haynes at 70. Next year's guard class is solid. I agree. We should take one this year, right? And you kind of have to go back and say, was Phillips really needed? Was Darius Masau really needed? And again, those guys don't have to be, it's just going to be interesting because everybody passed up on Christian Mahogany. The Giants passed up on Trey Smith. What happened? Trey Smith is a starter. And the Giants didn't pick him up. Instead, they picked up Gary Brightwell and what the fuck is his face? Darius Williams, who's no longer on the team anymore. So again, I kind of dislike the fact that again, don't throw in my face that they didn't pick O-line because they have enough and they signed free agents. Fuck that. Enough. Because it's enough. Anyway, the next guy I want to get to is Theo Johnson. And right before the podcast, I actually watched some of his tape. And, the first time I watched him, I wasn't on all 22, so I couldn't really get a good feel for him. This guy, I'm really excited to see what he looks like next to Daniel Bellinger. Now, he's not the greatest blocker in the world. He needs to get better sustaining and driving blocks. But he's got an excellent frame, 6'6", 250. Maybe he needs to slim a little bit, but he's got an excellent catch radius. And he's also above average route runner. Like you watch him in college, he's beating man corners. He lines up, outside. He lines up inside, in line. He's a big yak guy too. So the Giants, I think, could be multiple with this offense, 12 personnel, 11 personnel, whatever.
What about 22 personnel?
22 personnel, all those different things. Because, right now, Bellinger could do both. He could catch, and he could also
Block.
He could also block, which is a good thing. Theo Johnson, probably a better catcher than he is a blocker. And then, you have a guy like Jack Stoll or Chris Manhertz, who is a blocking tight end. So the Giants have pretty much an open bed of tight ends that they could deal with, and anyone else who comes in, Lawrence Cager, this, that, and the third. And, people are saying, oh, Theo Johnson's replacing Bellinger. I don't agree with that. But
I think
I'm really excited to see, as I said, I'm really excited to see Theo Johnson next to a guy like Daniel Bellinger. Because again,
I think they complement each other really well.
They do. They do complement each other really well, and also emphasizes the fact that Darren Waller is probably not coming back. Which, is sad at this point, but you kind of have to plan in that case.
You have to plan for these type of things.
You have to plan. So that's a Theo Johnson pick. I'll give a grade at the end before we go into anything else. The next guy I want to talk about is Tyrone Tracy, who's the 5th round pick. And to me, he's a little bit of a sneakster. He could be a steal in this draft for the Giants, and he has only played one season at running back. Only one season. He's an older player. He's 24, 25. But he played his college years at Iowa before transferring to Purdue, and he was a wide receiver. But they switched him over to running back for whatever reason. And, he's still got some kinks to work out, but this guy, he's got speed. I like his jump cut. His spin move is pretty good. And he's also a special teams asset, which is great because the Giants could, use some kick return, punt return guys. Gunnar Olszewski, Isaiah McKenzie is also in there. So you add Tyrone Tracy. And honestly, I like Tyrone Tracy better than Eric Gray because some people say, oh, Gray's more explosive or this, that, and the third. I don't like Gray's speed. I didn't like the Gray draft pick, to be honest. Like when we watched him on TV, Senior Bowl, I was like, this guy really doesn't excite me. Like, I don't see where people are getting off on him. But what's up to Jeffrey in the chat? I think they're more assuming that he will retire. Had more forced missed tackles than everyone's consensus number one running back at trade bets.
Know that.
The missed tackles, I think it was yards after contact. He was also pretty good with. But, again, this guy probably not going to start on day one, but he's a guy that you place multiple. And I kind of like the Giants, what they did this draft offensively with guys on the offense. Multiple. Malik Neighbors can line up anywhere. Theo Johnson, for the most part, can line up anywhere, but he's probably going to be inliner in the slot. And Tyrone Tracy could probably do all of those things in a pinch, right? Line up in the backfield, end arounds. Tracy has caught a ton of passes out of the backfield. So, and even then, he's a wide receiver, so he knows the game. And obviously, maybe he could shore up his route running. There are inconsistencies, though, with his vision. So that's going to be like one of the biggest problems with him. But if you have Singletary and if you have Gray at least be solid, that's your 1-2 punch. And then Tyrone Tracy comes in, and maybe he's better than Eric Gray, but also Singletary is here for another 2 years after this year. So there's that. Max says, yep, receiving ability. And our running back coach recommended him, and he was Alvin Kamara's coach. I didn't know that he was. I know that he was Kamara's coach. I didn't know he recommended him though. So,
Alex, would
that
you agree that real quick? They scouting Bleacher Report has the scouting report for Tracy. He has the comp as Miles Sanders. Would you kind of agree with that?
I need to see a little bit more before I say Miles Sanders, personally. But I mean, again, in training camp, it's going to be interesting. Actually, I mean, I'm pretty much waiting till the preseason games because I can never tell what a running back does in training camp. Like, you're not touching each other, you're not,
Right.
tackling each other. And then, the whistles and just a bunch of nonsense. Our last 3 picks were recommended by our coaches. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who Theo Johnson was recommended by, but Darius Masau was recommended by the special teams coordinator, Michael Gobriel, former Jet assistant special teams coordinator, who was a coach at Hawaii and then went to UCLA. Well, actually, he was a coach at Hawaii, coached Masau. Masau went to UCLA. And I haven't watched Masau's film. I'm probably going to get to that either tomorrow or Wednesday before we get the draft recap done with John Schmelk. But he led Hawaii in tackles in two seasons out of the 3 with 102 and 108. 10.5 tackles last year with UCLA, 4 sacks, 60.5 total. He's had 5 interceptions over the course of career in college. And again, this guy's an older player, but he's got pass rush upside, eye discipline and instinct, shooting gaps. The problem with him is short arms, speed limitations on outside runs, and a smaller frame. So this is a guy you could probably look at as a special teams guy, but also as well, I will say, apparently he didn't play a ton of special teams in college because he was mainly a starter. So that's probably going to be something that the Giants actually coach him into. And maybe he makes the practice squad if they elect him not to keep on the roster, but he's probably going to be competing. You have the first 2 in McFadden and a guy in Bobby Okereke. Then you go down to Isaiah Simmons, Deontay Johnson, Carter Coughlin, who's a special teamer. But Beavers, I think, is going to be on the hot seat as he was last year because, obviously the injury. Now he's getting competition with Darius Masau. Plus, he's linebacker 4. When he did play special teams, he was really good. And his pass rush upside. So, again, I don't have big expectations for Darius Masau. I think it'd be wrong to have high expectations of Darius Masau. But at the end of the day, if I were to grade the draft class, you know what? I'll let Luca start. Luca, what do you grade this draft class?
Like a B, B minus.
Okay. I'd probably say B minus too. Just because, not even just like the quarterback part in there, but the 3rd round pick kind of puts me to a C-ish grade with Andrew Phillips being more of a slot than an outside, and Masau, he's all right. I don't know if he's going to be any big impact. So my first grade approach would be B minus. Okay, so B minus. Yeah, I like Drew Phillips. He's a really good tackler, and that's what you want special teamers. Neither do I, but it's a solid pick. Yeah, pretty much a solid pick. So, Luke, I got to get a charger from upstairs if you want to maybe start talking about the Jets draft class.
Yeah, real quick, the Jets, I thought they had a solid draft as well. So I'm going to go over the picks real quick in just terms of the totality of the picks. The Jets, they obviously had pick 10. They traded back for 11. So their picks, they traded back a couple of times in the 5th and 6th rounds. They had a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 draft picks. Fashanu was the first. We'll go into him in a little bit. Malachi Corley, Jets needed a wide receiver. They got a versatile wide receiver in Corley, big yak guy, big yards after the catch, can line up pretty much anywhere. Basically, kind of your Swiss Army knife. So I can't wait to see how the Jets use him. Can't wait to see that. Braylon Allen, running back out of Wisconsin as well. Pretty much the big body running back that I think the Jets have long missed for a little bit. The Jets do need a bit of a guy who can complement Breece Hall because Dalvin Cook was not that guy last year. Obviously him being hurt and him being old and washed. But Braylon Allen, obviously not so much. He's not a fantastic talent, but I think Braylon Allen will add a part of his game, part of the Jets, a part of his game to the Jets where essentially where he can run down the defense. He's that big body guy. You could use him in short yardage situations. He's a good pass protector apparently as well. So the Jets do need help at blitz pickup. Real quick, Jordan Travis as well, drafting out of Florida State, quarterback. I thought he would have been a nice little mid-round quarterback had he not gotten hurt, like second or third round at least, maybe beginning of the second. I really like Travis watching him last year before he got hurt. I think Florida State had a really special team before he went hurt. Next up, Isaiah Davis, running back, South Dakota State. I'll go into my criticism of that pick in a little bit. Alex should be joining us. But Quantez Stiggers out of Toronto Argonauts. I'm not sure if he's the first CFL player to ever be drafted in the NFL draft, but I should look that up probably. And then Jalen Key at safety, Alabama, Mr. Irrelevant. Not much going there. But in terms of the full breakdown in Olamaya Fashanu, I talked about it, right? I talked about this multiple times. What the Jets should do at 10? As Alex is sneezing in the background. But anyways, regardless, the Jets had, they traded back one spot. They had Bowers. They had a selection between Bowers and Fashanu. And there were people that were unhappy with the Fashanu pick because they wanted Brock Bowers. And listen, I get that logic. You want the playmaker in Bowers. He's impact. He's win now. But I also think Fashanu can be win now because at the essence of it, the Jets not only signed Tyron Smith, who's up there in age, to be fair. He's still playing elite. He's still the best pass blocking tackle in the left. Best pass blocking left tackle in the NFL. But the problem is injuries, and that will remain all the injuries. So last time I believe he's played a full season was in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So you need some insurance policy. Also, Morgan Moses. Will the Jets try Fashanu at right tackle? I know it's Fashanu, but I call him Fashanu. But anyways, going to the right tackle pick. Well, not the right tackle. The Jets traded for Morgan Moses. Also played with the team in 2021. He was very solid as a run blocker. But he tore his pectoral in week 4 last year. So he's another concern. He's also in one of your contracts. So you needed some insurance policy. It's not like a Will McDonald pick where this guy was almost never going to see the field. He will see the field at some point this season. Now, somebody said, are the Jets going to try him out at guard? I don't think he has the body type. But just some things to break down about Fashanu. What I find interesting as well is that Bleacher Report has this pro comparison to DeBrickashaw Ferguson, somebody who I watched growing up. Obviously, impact player, great left tackle for the Jets. And, they've long missed a left tackle, bookend tackle since DeBrickashaw. We tried with Mekhi Becton. We tried with so many other players. But what I like about Fashanu is he's the best pass blocking left tackle. And I think he's going to, when it comes to it, we think about it, Aaron Rodgers probably has 2-3 years left of playing time, realistically. Could be one, you never know. But Fashanu is the best pass blocking left tackle. He got very even weight distribution. His footwork's phenomenal. But the one thing that he does struggle with is that he has good aggression, not great, and also he needs to work on his run blocking. So obviously they're going to have Simpson, and Simpson's more of a power run blocker on the left side, so that's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, I was just had a brain fart for a second, but yeah, Timmons can be on the center, Vera Tucker right side, Simpson on the left side with Fashanu. So again, what we'll see what happens, but I like the Fashanu pick. I don't have a problem with it. I would give it personally an A- or an A just in general because he was one of my 2 top options on the big board that I had.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I don't really have a problem with the pick. I think it was personally a miracle that they had a guy like Olu Fashanu
true.
Come down to them, even with the Jets trading back a spot, because you just never know. Obviously, the Titans, they picked J.C. Latham, which was a little bit surprising. Obviously, I didn't get much right in my mock drafts, but it kind of all started with Joe Alt going to the Los Angeles Chargers, which I bet Jeff fans were probably like, at least the ones that wanted the OT. Oh shit, Fashanu's probably not making it. And Latham is at least right now in line to start at left tackle unless you got Skoronski over there at left tackle to start for the Tennessee Titans. But I guess the good saving grace is you have Bill Callahan as your line coach, and Atlanta didn't need O-line. The Bears picked another weapon in Roma Dunze, so they could have picked Olu Fashanu. but you go to 10, and obviously Minnesota, for whatever reason, traded up a singular pick, and then the Jets got a couple of extra picks in the late rounds. But I like the pick. I mean, credit to the Raiders for picking up Brock Bowers after after the Broncos picked up Bo Nix. But I like the pick because at the end of the day, building sustained success is kind of what moves you in this league, and the trenches, right? You see teams, you see most good teams have a forward-thinking mentality. You saw what this reminds me of, and I'm not gonna gas Joe Douglas up because Jeff fans do that, and if that's their own thing. But sitting there getting a guy like Landon Dickerson when they did, slotting him in, and then getting Cam Jurgens, slotting him in, and then drafting Tyler Steen, envisioning that he's going to be some sort of a starter. Jason Kelsey retires,
Right.
and then boom, all things kind of just fall into place. And if everything goes well for the Jets, now obviously there's certain situations that may not go well, whether it's the quarterback position, the future of the franchise, whatever. You at least have a solid left tackle to back up Tyron Smith, who does, as you mentioned, have an injury history. So again, Fashanu, I like the pick. I think just what a lot of people and a lot of teams get away from is drafting in the trenches. And the Jets have not drafted well in the trenches since Vera Tucker. But even then, it's like he's been injury prone as far as you could say.
And also, Armin says real quick, do you think the Jets would have traded down from 11? I think they could have. I don't know if they got any offers. Obviously, we don't know that. But I was fine with sticking 11. Even if they traded down again, I would have been fine. But I think the problem is with most people, I shouldn't say most people, I should say half people or even less, they wanted the flashy pick. The flashy pick was Bowers, generational talent, all this stuff. But again, you need insurance policy. You can't sit here, go into the season, let's just say they draft Brock Bowers or, let's say they draft Brock Bowers and, they go into the season, Tyron Smith gets hurt. Who's the hell's your insurance policy? Max Mitchell, Carter Warren, and then you're complaining, maybe Joe Douglas should have taken that lineman. You can't have it both ways, realistically. So with the Aaron Rodgers trade, it would be a little while before the New York Jets would end up taking their next pick because their second round pick was gone. So at the end of the day, the Jets traded up to 65. They selected Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky, who we saw at the Senior Bowl. Now, Corley, let me break down his height. He's 5'11", 215. I think it's a solid size. I think he's a slot guy. But
I'm surprised he's like that in terms of because with the guys you usually see, like the Kadarius Tonys and the Wan'Dale Robinsons of the world, they're usually around like 180, 190, but 215. I mean, that's an interesting. And if he still has that speed, that's a credit to him.
And he's putting on more weight as we speak, apparently. Apparently, from what Dan was telling us, or at least what I saw on Twitter, he's putting on like 15 more pounds, possibly. Maybe not, I don't know about 15, but still. So the positives, very good hands, a very good catch radius, calmly locates and snags throws outside his frame. He has above average long speed with the ball in his hands. He's a deep threat. He's not just intermediate or over the middle or in short passing plays. He's very good with the bubble screens. That's something you saw a lot at Western Kentucky if you watch his film. So he's almost like a Deebo Samuel kind of guy. I'm not going to say he is actually Deebo Samuel, but I think he can be used in that type of role. So some negatives, poor footwork and hand usage as a route runner. So I guess it's more of a separation aspect, but he does have the speed. Limited route tree. I think the Jets can fix that, hopefully, but screens, flat routes, crossers that were his main game, but deep routes, I think he's got some explosiveness. So it's more average, but last year, 984 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 79 receptions. He was a 2022 and 2023 first-time All-Conference USA. I'm going to look up some stats because I'm pretty sure I was looking this up during the draft over the last two seasons. Let's see. College Football Reference. He led the Conference USA in I think like 2 to 3 categories. So the first couple of categories, we got receiving yards in 2022. He led Conference USA 1,295. 2023 he led Conference USA in 11 touchdowns, and 2022 101 receptions. So I'm excited for this pick. If the Jets can figure out how to use him, Nathaniel Hackett. If they can figure out how to use him in multiple variety of ways, I'm very satisfied with the pick. I'm going to go with the B+ on this one. I do think there were wide receivers better on the board, like a Roman Wilson or a Brendan Rice, or there's other receivers that were on the board at that time. But I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. I do like the Corley pick. He's somebody I liked when we were scouting him down at the Senior Bowl, so I'm not going to complain. So that's my evaluation on Corley. What do you have to say about Corley and what you saw?
I mean, I wasn't very much watching the wide receivers while we were down in Bama. I was watching O-line and the quarterbacks, but Corley's definitely explosive, and I think his utilization within the offense is going to be up to a guy in Nathaniel Hackett. And I think if Rodgers knows what to do with him, he'll obviously tell Hackett, look, you got to do this, this, and this. But I think the Jets really needed that slot threat because you have Williams on the outside. He's still recovering from his injury that happened last season. You still have Garrett Wilson. And, the Jets really didn't have a consistent slot receiver last year. McCole Hardman obviously was not factored in. Xavier Gibson obviously had his drop issues and all these other different things that factored in. So I think Corley is a very good pick for the Jets. And, again, what was it, the tip of the third round they selected him, or was that the second?
Yeah, it was, let me give the exact pick. I think it was like 74, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe they traded up earlier.
I feel like they might have traded up earlier, but I could be wrong.
Let me look that up.
Wait, I actually have it right here. It's 65, so that's the first pick of the third
yeah.
round.
The Jets had like 72, so they traded 7 spots up.
Yeah, they traded 7 spots up and then all those other different things. But I think it's a very good pick by the Jets. I mean, slot receiver, I would say it's a very good pick by the Jets.
So next, now this was some. Now I'll be honest, I wasn't really for drafting a running back in the draft. I was more of the free agency route. Hey, let's go get a Kareem Hunt, mostly. Damian Harris, when he was available, I think he retired, if I'm not mistaken. But a Kareem Hunt, I'd still be wanting to sign even now. But even before then, I wasn't really a fan of drafting another running back because you would have Izzy, you would have Kareem Hunt. Ideally, if the Jets would sign him, this is pre-draft, and you'd also have Breece Hall. So yes, Breece Hall does need a companion next to him. I don't think Izzy's for that role yet because he still struggles with pass protection. So the Jets ended up taking 2 running backs in this draft. The first one I get, the second one I don't personally, but just to go on to it, Jets got Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin. So I'm going to pull up his numbers real quick from the college football season. His build I'm going to look at
What's up to Miz and NYJTV, aka Vinny, in the chat?
What's up, Vinny? Hope all is well. Braylon Allen, let's look at his size. 6'2", 235. This guy is big. This guy's a big running back. He's a big boy. He's not light. He has speed. I don't think, to me, from like what I've watched, I'm not sure if he has elite speed, but you know what? The Jets don't need that. And I talked about it a little bit while you're gone, Alex. The Jets need a guy who can convert to short yardage. You're not going to use Breece Hall every down. You need a guy who can wear down a defense during the end of games. Let's just say you're down 7. No, I'm sorry, not down 7. You're up 7. You're up 14. You need that 3rd and 1 where you can just go up the gut, have your offensive lineman block. You need a guy to get that extra yard. I think Braylon Allen could be the guy. Could it be more in the NFL? I'm sure he can. But if the Jets start him out as a 3rd down running back in pass protection, I don't think that's a problem. So last year with Wisconsin, he's also a former teammate of Joe Tippmann's. He's had 2 1,000-yard seasons in college. He's been playing since 2021. He averaged 4.7 yards, 5.4 yards per carry, 12 touchdowns, 984 yards on 181 rushing attempts. He's not really much of a receiver, which surprises me a little bit because usually, they try to come with running backs these days, I think, are a little more dual threat. They can not only run but catch out of the backfield. But Braylon Allen, I guess he's not much of a receiving back. Now, the good part about that is you could go 2 running back sets. You could have Breece Hall to Rodgers' left and Braylon Allen to his right. Whatever side needs protection, you could put Braylon Allen on. So I like the Braylon Allen pick as well. I think it's a B+ in my opinion. He's not, is he the best running back? No. Does he have elite speed? No. But he's a big boy. And he fits, again, what the Jets need. They need that running back to take the load off of Breece Hall a little bit. But overall, he's got good vision, good strength and balance, fundamental hands as a pass catcher. But again, I don't think he's really showed a lot of his pass catching ability. Maybe the Jets, add that onto his skill set. But pass protection back, a guy who could wear down the defense at the end of the games, the Jets got their guy in the 4th round. I'm not mad at that. I'm not really mad at that. Alex, what do you have to say about Braylon Allen? Unless
There's a
if
couple
you
of
don't
comments.
Okay.
Let's see. Miz says he's already scouting quarterbacks for next year's draft class. Yeah, I would say probably don't scout Shador. Don't scout Quinn Ewers because we'll probably be picking between 6 and 10 next year or even higher because that's the way the Giants love to play. Miz says he loves Braylon Allen, wanted him bad for the Giants, physical bull. 2 observations from some Jeff fans. Armin says, I think Izzy is mostly used as a returner this year along with Gibson. Izzy's speed could be a help with kickoff rules that were implemented. And Vay says that drafting 2 running backs has told him 2 things. They have zero faith in Izzy Anaconda and have no intention of paying Breece Hall down the road. Now, I will say this before we get to some more comments in my evaluation is, don't know about the second one, but the first one I could definitely buy into considering how long it took them to play him last year. Even when Dalvin...
Exactly. And they also said, like, oh, well, his pass protection isn't so good and all this different stuff. Like Nate Hackett, the Jets... again, pass protection was his biggest problem. It took so long for him to get on the field, even when, Dalvin Cook was badly struggling and Michael Carter wasn't effective either. So that's, again, drafting, to me, if you're drafting him because, you messed up on Izzy, that's problematic, in my opinion. I know Izzy's a late round pick. I know he was 4th, 5th round, but I think that's problematic if they don't have faith in Izzy and in his development. Number 2, they have no intention of pacing paint. I hope that's not true because Breece is... I know running back's not a premium position nowadays, but Breece Hall is like one of those star running backs. And, obviously, first year got hurt. Second year played most of the season, almost 1,000 yards. But overall, I hope they keep Breece Hall. Miz says that he's a smash mouth between the tackles running back. I love that. Poor man Brandon Jacobs. Yeah, they Jets need a big body running back. I'm not saying Breece isn't that guy, but again, wearing down the defense, pass protection, I'm happy with the Braylon Allen pick. Jason Tatum rolled this. Yeah. Not surprising. Max custom kicks. Bam Adebayo's dirty player. He never lets he always gets into the landing space of a shooter, so that doesn't surprise me. I actually watched that live, but he's trash. Like the Bam, he likes Jaden Milroe.
He's got all QBs this past college season. No more, though. I have no idea what Shane is doing. Davis could fill 2 spots, running back or fullback. Bawden could be on the roster bubble. Bawden's still on the roster?
Yes.
And fullback could be shared by Davis and Ruckert or another tight end. I just don't see the Jets keeping 4 running backs, even one as an H-back. And then also you got to factor in Nick Bawden.
Right. So that's what I got to say about the Braylon Allen.
As far as the Allen pick goes, I think it's very much a need for the Jets, and they accomplished that. I was very surprised at the time, but the guy who gets the short yardage gains and could be explosive within a pinch. The Jets really needed that.
So we'll now move into the next pick, which I thought was one of my, actually, if you want to argue, my second or third favorite. Now, again, you drafted a quarterback, this, and this mid-round. You could have drafted wide receiver, this, whatever. I got to say, Miz, real quick, your boy Buko, I'm pretty sure he and I were like in threads talking about, Twitter threads talking about Jordan Travis, how he's the ideal backup to be behind Aaron Rodgers, developmental guy. I like this Jordan Travis pick a lot. Is he going to play? Is he going to be an immediate impact in year 1? No. He's probably going to start the season possibly on IR if the recovery's like that long enough. But he's like so intriguing to see, right? Because you saw Florida State's team last year, had a lot of success. Unfortunately, went down with the big, an ACL injury for Jordan Travis?
Let me take a look real quick. I'll get that for you.
But Travis's numbers last year
went down
at Florida State. Go ahead.
It doesn't say the injury; it just says serious leg injury.
Serious leg injury. Okay. But regardless, Travis is an older quarterback. I think he's around 23, 24 years old. He's going to sit behind Aaron Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor. He had 2,756 passing yards last season, 8.5 yards per attempt, 20 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, I think this is a quarterback pass efficiency rating of 154.5. But I like this pick. Travis is a playmaker, man. Travis, I think he also has good height. He stands he has solid height, 6'1", 200. Obviously the hands and stuff. They see, again, good quickness and escapability. He's very nimble, above average line drive thrower, can hit the ball right on the spot. He's also can run around and create outside the pocket. But the problem is he doesn't have a lot of arm strength. And also another thing is his pocket presence isn't exactly as good. But again, those things can be worked on. This dude is, again, as I talked about with Zach Wilson last year, I said it over and over, that kid needed to learn and sit behind Rodgers for a full year where he has no pressure to start. Jordan Travis will have no pressure to start, and he's going to sit there and mold behind Aaron Rodgers and Tyrod Taylor. Who knows? I'm not going out. Who knows? I'm not predicting this. I would love this to be the case. But at the end of the day, maybe he becomes the Jets quarterback after Rodgers. Who knows? But overall, I like the Travis pick a lot. I think he was, as I said, him or Rattler was the ideal quarterback to sit behind Rodgers as the technical developmental guy. Him or Spencer Rattler. Maybe Spencer Rattler, gets a chance behind Derek Carr. But yeah, absolutely. I'm all for the Jordan Travis pick. I'm actually going to give this pick an A. I know, you really shouldn't give a pick an A for drafting a quarterback in the late rounds, but Jordan Travis, to me, this guy I was loving, and I have no complaints about this pick. Nice to be excited, Luca. Guess who we have, Jones? I'm sorry, Miz. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Listen, I was with you saying, I was with Alex saying, I said the Giants need to draft a quarterback, but regardless.
Yeah, I was talking about the direction earlier, Miz, the direction that I'm very, very skeptical on. But as far as the Jordan Travis pick, I like it for the Jets. I think there was definitely interest there, and it was definitely true beforehand. I think there was a lot of speculation amongst Jet fans, like whether they would go out and get a developmental quarterback because of the way the hot seat is for the Jets this year, or at least maybe there is, maybe there isn't, depending on what Woody thinks inside.
Right.
But I like the pick. I mean, he's a low risk, high reward guy. I think he could definitely be a solid backup. If he could be a starter, that's even more of a plus. And, it would be an ultimate win for the Jets and would probably make the rest of Joe Douglas's career, depending on certain things. But he generally just doesn't have to do anything this year. He's got one of the best mentors, if he's going to be up to it. That's Aaron Rodgers. And even then, when Aaron Rodgers is playing, Tyrod Taylor's there. So Tyrod Taylor, he's been a guy that's been in the league since like 2010, 2011. He's won a Super Bowl, so he's been around multiple quarterbacks, and he's definitely knowledgeable. He's been around a lot of different coaches. So, in my opinion, if you leave a guy like Nate Hackett out of the way and just let the quarterbacks do the coaching, I know it sounds stupid, but I think Jordan Travis could be. If
you let Travis soak in what Rodgers is telling him, he's gonna learn a lot, truly. And even as I said, as you said, between Taylor and Rodgers, that's a lot of football knowledge and experience there. So, Miz says, I don't think Jets had a great draft. I'm going to give my draft grade at the end. Need to go 11-6 win division. Yeah, it's set up for the Jets to win the division this year. Again, all about coaching, in my opinion. My only pick I have a gripe with is Ray Davis, which I think is actually the next draft pick. It is. You mean Isaiah Davis, right?
I forget who Ray Davis went to.
I'll check that in 1 second.
I got it.
Okay. So the next guy, he went to Buffalo? That's right. I think I saw that. Yeah. He went to Buffalo. But the only pick I have a gripe with is Ray Davis.
That's another pick that the Steelers made, Roman Wilson.
That was a very good pick by the Steelers. I got to give him a shit ton of credit. But maybe take Roman Wilson instead of Malachi Corley. But I like Malachi. That's fair. Listen, that's fair. That's why I called it a B+ pick. If it was Roman Wilson, I probably said it was an A+. But again, I'm not being super picky. I liked Malachi Corley. I think he has a lot of untapped talent. But it's all about the Jets, trying to get that out of him. But moving on to the next pick, this is Isaiah Davis out of South Dakota State. He's measured at 6'0", 220 pounds. Armin Murray mentioned it. I just want to go up to his comment real quick. Let's see. Armin could fill 2 spots, running back 3 or fullback. Bawden could be on the roster bubble, and fullback could be shared by Davis and Ruckert or another tight end. Yeah, definitely. Ruckert, look, I think the Jets should use Ruckert as a bit of an H-back, but obviously Davis kind of changes things. So I'm a little, this is probably the most pick that I'm puzzled with. because I think the Jets could have drafted another wide receiver. Now, let's pull down. I'm going to pull out the entire draft board at this position. Who was taken after Ray Davis? Not Ray Davis, Isaiah Davis, excuse
Brendan
me. Now,
Rice.
Brendan Rice, yes. I'm trying to let me see what other picks were there
I'll
because
pull it up.
I would have liked what?
I'll pull it up.
Okay.
Davis was what, 5th round?
Hold on. I think I'm getting closer to him, so you don't have to look it up. So the Jets got him at 173, round 5. So the guys who went after him, they did I think 3 picks later, they went after Stiggers, which is all right. We'll talk about that. They could have probably they probably could have brought in. There's 2 preferences what I could have wanted. Now they didn't draft a safety. Okay, I think they should go out and sign one personally. They didn't draft an offensive lineman in the developmental stages, which I probably would have wanted, but wide receiver, I think I would have wanted to double up on. Jaquan Jackson, now, in my opinion, I think Jackson's skill set is maybe closer to Malachi Corley's, so that would have been a little bit redundant. Malik Washington out of Virginia, he's 5'8", another slot type of guy, redundant. But Johnny Wilson was there. I'd like to see what he could have done. I know or Tejon Palmer as well. So maybe Jets could have even, they could have drafted another wide receiver. That's a little bit of my pickiness. But overall, they drafted Isaiah Davis, South Dakota senior year. Just some stats real quick on Isaiah Davis coming out of the South Dakota State. Let's read his numbers. So as this loads right now, I'm trying to figure it out because for some reason Pro Football Reference is being dumb. Here, yeah, they don't have the stats for whatever reason because it is South Dakota State. So in terms of his scouting report, he is burly, has a compact ball carrier with exceptional mass and play strength, good mix of patience and discipline as a zone runner, creative instincts in space, using euros and crossovers to offset DBs, tax holes when he sees them, absorbs solo hits with midsection and pries through arm tackles with great strength. He's a one-cut runner and has some nice angles. Functional route trade of the backfield has improved his hand technique. I don't know he is as a pass protector. Maybe that's also a thing in his blocker. But overall, I'm mixed with this pick because as I said, I think the Jets should draft another wide receiver or possibly a depth offensive lineman. But I'm not terribly mad at this pick. It probably is my least favorite. But in terms of that, just looking, he was projected 5 round 6. So he's fit. He is actually an effective pass protector. So that's good. He does need to hone his technique though. I'm going to give this, let's see, BB minus for my least favorite pick. That's fair. Again, I never had a problem with Isaiah Davis, the prospects. Like, why you got to go 2 running backs? Unless they use him. If they use him as a fullback and they give Ruckert more of a role this year, I'm like, okay, no problem. Then you have Borden out of the picture. Then I'll understand this pick just a little bit more. But the next pick was a little bit of a redemption story. Quantez Stiggers out of the Toronto Argonauts. I don't know if he was the first ever NFL draft pick out of the CFL, which is interesting. But, I joked around with Alex in the pre-draft process. The Giants are going to draft Quantez Stiggers. I said that as a joke, but you know what? He has an interesting story. So it wasn't so much, yes, he is depth for the defensive back room. He can play safety. He can play numerous spots in the secondary. But a little story about him, right? Stiggers was in college. He went to Lane College, I believe, at Tennessee. And his father was involved in a serious car accident in 2020. His father would later die in September that year. But Stiggers went home to take care of his family. He's like, you know what? I'm going to put my dream on pause, and I'm going to go help my family out. So he ended up returning to football back in 2022. He played for the FCF. He played for indoor football, FCF, which is the fan-controlled football league. I think he played for 2 teams that year. By the way, real quick, his father's death caused him to enter significant depression that resulted in him dropping out despite being on a scholarship. So this man is mentally tough. He overcame adversity a shit ton. Give him a lot of credit. But he also played in the CFL in 2023. Again, this is more of a story pick. This is like one of those, I don't want to say sentimental picks. Alex, do you get where I'm getting at in terms of this? You're like, what's up
Yeah.
to Dan as well? Like, you're picking him because of his story. You know what? Let me take a chance on this guy because he's a really cool story. I want to see what this guy comes out to. So that's what I think personally. The Quantez Stiggers, I think this dude's mentally tough. I like to see what he does in training camp because obviously he's never been on a college or NFL field that we've seen. But I like his story. You know, a guy who battles through adversity is mentally tough. But it's going to be interesting as well because the Jets do have Michael Carter and DJ Reed on the final year of their contracts. Does Stiggers become a starter? Does he become a safety? Who knows? Again, could line up in various spots. Good tackler, especially in run support, which is very helpful. But I'll give this pick a B. I mean, it's not a fantastic pick, but you know what? I like his story. So there's that. And then the final pick of the 2024 NFL draft, Jalen Key out of Alabama. He's a safety. He actually only played 1 year as a football player at Alabama. He also played basketball, if I'm not mistaken. So he actually played, let's see. I just want to make sure. He actually played basketball in Australia, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he played basketball. This dude's 27 years old, and he played basketball in Australia. So it's like one of those fuck it picks. But I'll give it like I mean, I don't truly know what this guy is in terms of football. I didn't watch this guy a lot, to be fair. I didn't even know who he was. But I'll give it like a C. Pass coverage abilities are solid, not consistent in run support, mental toughness, frame, toughness, mentality, but not really high upside for safety. So it's one of the, I mean, to be fair as well, it's a Mr. Relevant. You're just throwing shit on the pan to see what sticks or shit against the wall to see what sticks. So I don't know if I would give it a C. I'll give it like a BB minus. But overall, in terms of the draft, you know, how I graded it out, B plus B. I'm actually higher in this draft, you know, in the grand scheme of things than last year's draft because last year I had a lot of questions in terms of not a lot of contributors. B plus B minus, not B plus B minus, B plus B.
Yeah, I would say probably a B. The two last picks are kind of like fuck it storyline picks.
Yeah.
The first one was a home run, I'd say. Trading up for Corley's big. Getting Braylon Allen at that spot is big too. The Isaiah Davis pick doesn't really make any sense.
If they find him a role like where he's that fullback and Ruckert's tight end too, because now Uzama's gone, which is a plus side, fucking fat teddy bear. But anyways, if it's Conklin tight end 1, look at me, Ruckert tight end 2, and then you have as the fullback or the H back Isaiah Davis. Okay, then you have a role. So nope. Again, if there's a role for him where he's not just a running back 3 or 4, I don't have a problem with that pick. But right now, that's probably my least favorite pick of the draft.
Okay. Max says you could have taken Gabe Hall as Mr. Relevant. I was high on him and is surprised he went undrafted. And mad the Eagles got him. Yep. I think you got a chance.
We interviewed Gabe Hall.
Yep. Who got a chance?
He was underrated. He's starting to show. He showed out at the Senior Bowl. But
yes, sir.
You know, it wouldn't have been bad to grab him at that last pick. But again, it was more of like those picks are like, fuck it. We're just throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks, as I always say.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, honestly, I'm feeling solid about this draft. Now they do have some needs to attack in free agency. I like a wide receiver. Go out get Tyler Boyd, Hunter Renfrow. Fine with that. And also get a safety. And if you do that, I'm good. I'm good rolling into the season personally. Safety and wide receiver. That's it. You want to draft it? You want to get another tackle? So be it. But safety and wide receiver are my first options. They did sign, yeah. If you're talking about Miami, Leonard Taylor, who was projected to be a 4th round, 5th round pick. So maybe he becomes a star. Also, another guy we scouted at the Senior Bowl. Eric Watts his name is? From UConn?
Yeah.
Yeah. He is a Jet now. And the Jets also a guy, and get this, folks. The Jets also assigned a guy named Jet. I shit you not. The Jets signed a guy named Jet. Let me see college football. I'm trying to find his name is Jet Johnson. I shit you not, that is his real name. Jet Johnson is a Jet. Jet is a Jet. But I'm I'm solid with this draft. I'm good.
He's good with the draft. All right. So I guess before we close out, Pat Mahomes signed with Prime, and thus far, the Prime curse has been undefeated. I know he was on WWE tonight, so that's pretty interesting nonetheless. But name a team or two, maybe even three that you think won the draft and why.
I'm loving the Steelers draft. I'm loving the Steelers draft. They rebuilt their offensive line. Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier. They drafted Mason McCormick to be their depth. That's a nice young offensive line with two veterans.
Roman
You obviously
Wilson.
have Daniel. What's up, Roth? Right guard, you obviously have Daniels. Left guard, you have Semelo. You have three young kids now. Now it depends on coaching, obviously. But Roman Wilson, I love that pick for them. They need a replacement for Deontay Johnson. They got it. And the Steelers draft really well. Obviously, they're trying to set up Russell Wilson for success, and I think they can do that. It's all on him now because they have good talent on the offensive line. I think they have good enough receivers, tight ends where they have Darnell Washington and Pat Fryermuth.
Yep.
That was some good draft, in my opinion. I'm trying to find the rest of their draft class. For some reason, I'm not clicking on it. Here we go. They also drafted another fucking good pick, Peyton Wilson. I scouted this guy. He was at the Senior Bowl, I believe. I looked at some of his film. I actually think I wrote up a scouting report, if I'm mistaken. I'm like, dude, the Steelers are just grabbing steal after steal after steal. And, they tried rebuilding the linebacker core. They got Jerome Baker. They have Patrick Queen now. They have Cole Holcomb, who's a solid depth linebacker. Just give me 1 second. There we go. Apologize for that. Something just flew in. But anyways, to the point, Peyton Wilson, I love that pick. In the third round, nonetheless. The third round. And the injuries, obviously, and him being an older player help out with that. Him being drafted so late. Those top 3, 4, 5 picks are phenomenal. Good job, Pittsburgh. That's at least one team I can name. Try to think of another team that hit it out of the park.
Jets Afterburner says, in the event the Jets play the Argonauts in the postseason, we'll have some inside information. I want the Jets to sign Justin Simmons, and it's a wrap A+ off season.
Okay. I'd be fine with Justin Simmons.
They are easily second place. What's up to Bill? Thank you for the super chat, my man. Just a little thank you. Tip of the hat. Appreciate you, Bill. Hope you join us Wednesday night, 9 p.m. I'll be live with John Schmelk of the Giants YouTube channel on WFAN talking about the Giants draft class. If you missed any talk here, which will be a lot more fun on Wednesday. So I agree with the Steelers. I think them remodeling their offensive line, drafting Roman Wilson is a pretty good plan in front of Russell Wilson. So it's Wilson to Wilson connection if you think about it. I like the Cardinals draft.
Really?
They had a shit ton of picks, and they did a shit ton with it. They drafted Marvin Harrison. They didn't trade back, which is a smart move, when they already knew that they had another first-round pick. They drafted Darius Robinson, who could play either edge or defensive line in the interior. I like that pick. It's a good value pick, and I actually had it in my original mock. Now, they traded 35 to Falcons, but they got Max Melton in the second round, which is a pretty good pick. You line him up against Sean Murphy-Bunting, and that's probably where you're going in terms of your starters, unless they bring somebody in or whatever. But that's a good starting core. It's not like elite, but it's a good starting core. Trey Benson, lining him up with James Conner in the backfield, that's going to scare opposing defenses.
Oh, yeah.
They have a couple other backups, but Trey Benson, easily the best running back in the draft. And again, compare him with James Conner, and it's going to be solid. Isaiah Adams, solid guard, plays tackle as well. So I like the way they went there. Christian Jones, they got him at really high value in the 5th round with their last pick of the 5th round. They got a solid edge from Clemson, an older player, Xavier Thomas, just to be a backup. I think that's a good pick. And that's pretty much it. I'm also Elijah Jones from Boston College, who's a nickel corner, but again, he's a solid pick. And I'll give one more team. Actually, I'll give 2 more teams some some what do you call it? Some flowers, right?
Flowers.
I'm gonna have to give my guy Corey some flowers. The Washington Commanders. They drafted their quarterback in Jaden Daniels. They selected Jerzon Newton from Illinois, a guy who was dropping because of the whole injury
Injuries?
scare. Mm-hmm. And as far as he goes, I think Jonathan Allen is one of the guys they didn't pay. So they're forward thinking. They're saying, look, we cannot pay Jonathan Allen. We're going to go out there and select Jerzon Newton and line him up against Jerron Payne. That should be a scary interior. They drafted Mike Sainer still at corner to pay, and he's a Swiss Army knife. Dan Quinn is a defensive genius. We know what Joe Witt can do with some of the position groups in Dallas. They could put Sainer still at safety. They could put Sainer still in the box. They could put Sainer still at regular outside corner next to Benjamin St-Juste. They also lost a guy in Kendall Fuller this offseason, but they did sign Michael Davis, and they're also relying on Emmanuel Forbes to step up. So I think you're looking at a solid defense for the Washington Commanders. They also got Ben Sinnott. Now, they decided to release Logan Thomas this offseason. They brought in a very aged Zach Ertz, but you pair him and Sinnott, and that's a solid tight end core. McCaffrey, that's an okay pick, but the Brandon Coleman pick, he could be a depth guy, but he might actually be in position to start depending on how they view it, because at least the way I see it, Cornelius Lucas is going to be the left tackle to start the season. But if Coleman could come in and play guard or tackle, it's going to be really solid, the pan out. And I have to give credit to another NFC East rival. That's the Philadelphia Eagles. Quinyon Mitchell, drafting him in the first round, falling to 22. Cooper DeJean falling to the second round as a safety or a corner. We'll see what Vic Fangio can do with them. I really like the Aeneas Smith pick. It's a special teams pick nonetheless. Johnny Wilson is very good depth in the sixth round nonetheless. And also they drafted two more offensive linemen, Trevor Keegan from Michigan, who I got the chance to interview, and Dylan McMahon from NC State. So kind of piling up those trenches. And maybe one of them could be a guy that comes up and, pretty much like a Jordan Mailata, a stick in the mud, but a very good pick. Let's see. I got some
also
more.
have two more teams that I like.
Okay.
All right. So if I had two more teams that I like, first of all, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. So it seems like almost every year they have a really good draft. So
Yeah.
First pick, they go out to select Nate Wiggins. Were they replacing anybody at corner, if I'm not mistaken? Were they replacing somebody at corner or no?
I'll look it up.
I really like that pick for them. I mean, I don't know who their defensive coordinator's what's his name? Fuck. God help me. What's his name?
Zach Orr.
Zach Orr. Okay. I don't know if they're going man, but Wiggins is a man corner, right?
Wiggins is more of a zone corner.
Oh, it's a zone corner.
At least the way I've read, because he fits a cover 3 system.
So I'm trying to look up the Ravens depth chart. I thought they really landed good value on Nate Wiggins at 30 nonetheless. They also landed TJ Tampa as well. Wiggins, I don't know who, again, I don't know who he necessarily was replacing. It was actually Ronald Darby, if I'm not mistaken. He was replacing Ronald Darby. But I really like the value there. Fits the system. I guess they're going to run more zone nowadays without Mike McDonald. But overall, I like this pick, just where the value's at. Next pick they had, Roger Rosengarten, really good depth guy. Maybe he develops into a starter. He's right now projected to be the right tackle starter, replacing Morgan Moses. So, a coaching staff like the Ravens, maybe they can develop into a solid starter. Who knows? And I want to see where who he's at least compared to in terms of a starter. I'm going to go with Bleach Report because obviously they do a lot of scouting reports and stuff, and they have player comps. But he was in a pretty much pass-heavy offense, and Todd Monken pretty much incorporated a lot of the pass last year in the offense, in his new offense, coming over from Georgia. So obviously that's a big thing. He's compared to a Spencer Brown, potential starter, high-level backup. So who's to say he can't start? Another pick I like from the Ravens. Such a Ravens pick too. They lost Jadeveon Clowney in free agency. They went to draft Adiza Isaac out of Penn State. That was such a Ravens draft pick, and it made all the sense in the world, in my opinion. They selected him third round, 93rd overall. Love the value. more of a second-round pick in my eyes, but he fell to the third round. Another pick with Devontae Walker in the fourth round. Phenomenal. Now he's going to be with Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, and Nelson Aguilar. This kid could be a stud, in my opinion. Next pick, as you said, TJ Tampa. Very, very good value. And Alex, did you scout TJ Tampa?
I didn't scout TJ Tampa, but I did want him on day 3 because we didn't get an outside corner.
Outside corner, another depth filler. But again, he'll be behind Marlon Humphrey in case they have injuries. They also drafted Bo. They also got Bo Braid as an undrafted free agent. They drafted Devin Leary. They also drafted Rasheen Ali, who I think was he the one who dropped a little bit due to injury?
Yeah.
Good pick for them. He's replacing J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Good pick, in my opinion. So the Ravens love drafting running backs, and they develop a hell lot of them. So Ravens would be my second team, honestly.
Okay, and I thought you said you had one more team.
Detroit, it's interesting because the Lions took some chances. Lions, first pick, Terrion Arnold. Needed a quarterback. I'm sorry, not cornerback.
They
Cornerback.
Took
Ennis Rakestraw as
SEC
well because
corners.
What's that?
SEC corners.
SEC corners, Missouri and Alabama. And what did the Lions struggle with? Pass coverage and defense last year. So they attacked a key need. Cameron Sutton, obviously, he's in legal trouble right now. So the Lions said, you know what, we got to draft a corner. Found really good value in Terrion Arnold. I like that they also took a chance on Giovanni Manu from from British Columbia. Some Jet fans were actually talking him up prior to the draft as more of a depth tackle, but that's one of those things where you take a shot in the dark. As I said, prior with the Stiggers pick, take a shot in the dark. You like his story, but he'll be sitting behind Taylor Decker, as I see on the depth chart. It's another really good pick, Alex. You said him earlier, Christian Mahogany. He was supposed to be a mid-round starting guard. He'll right now be sitting behind Kevin Zeitler, and who knows? Zeitler's on his a 2-year contract, 1-year contract, if I'm not mistaken. 2 years, I think it is. And he's going to sit behind Zeitler. He's going to be quality depth, and I think he's going to be a really good starter. So I selectively, I like what the Lions did.
Yeah. And they also drafted Mekhi Wingo, who was probably a 4th, 5th round pick, but he's going to be behind DJ Reader and Aleem McNeil, and and Levi Unzuriki. So those are solid guys to have on defense. But anything else you want to go over?
No, I think we covered the draft very nicely.
All right, so that's covering the draft. Remember, folks, so tomorrow Luca will be live on Unpopular Opinion Sports and Coach Ed Gladney's Amazing World of Sports YouTube channel, covering the next game. And then Wednesday we'll be back on here with John Schmelk at 9 p.m. talking about the New York Giants draft class. But Luca, if you want to implement your final thoughts and reflect on the final episode of the Boys in the Big Apple podcast, closing a book that has spanned 3 years, but essentially 4 seasons, 21, 22, 23, and 24.
Just want to see Jacob's comment real quick. I feel like the Jets were the big day 2, day 3 winners. The receiver legit, then arguably the best mid-round quarterback in Travis. I was like, when I saw it, I took like a break. I think it was like, and then I just popped on my phone. Jets grab Florida State quarterback. I'm like, yes. But I'm very satisfied with the Jets draft. Maybe they need 1 or 2 more weapons, or I should say 1 or 2 more needs, safety and wide receiver. But in terms of the big Boys of the Big Apple podcast, this is like the first legitimate show we started out with, like as a group. I know you were doing your podcast with Big Blue in the Bronx, obviously, doing the Giants stuff and a little bit of the Yankees too. But this was where we tried to cover all leagues, not all leagues, but everything in a league-wide sense. I remember like one of the first things we brought up in the first Boys in the Big Apple episode with Tana and Copizzle was the Dak Prescott new extension. That's when we started to get league-wide and league-based. So we tried to expand. We went into basketball a little bit. I'm still going to try to continue with basketball content, Nick streams, hopefully maybe some new basketball videos. We'll see what happens. But, it was meant to expand, expanded to a league-wide kind of thing. We went into football league-wide, baseball league-wide, basketball league-wide a little bit. A lot of fun through 127 episodes and 3 years plus. So a lot of fun memories on this show. And obviously, as well, we thank all the viewers for joining us. There's again, this is no official retirement from the channel, but you know what? We're gonna find new ways to create content and get you guys excited for videos, live streams, all that. Try to bring in more support. But you guys are phenomenal as always, man. And we wouldn't do this without you guys.
Yeah. So, as Lucas said, this is like it was our first like weekly live stream that we would do. Like not
Absolutely.
Yankee streams, not Giant streams, not that, but obviously we started this with Sean, and then obviously we've had to find new co-hosts along the way. But as far as that, y'all, the real MVPs, it's not easy running this stuff when you're in college. Yeah, and you're also, I'm gonna be working a lot more now that's the summer, but that's no excuse. I gotta find ways, and I kind of fault myself to like not getting this channel to 2,000 subscribers because I believe we should have been there already. But there's always ways of reevaluating and running it through again. But we hope to get to 2,000 really, really soon. And we got to do our part, and hopefully you guys are doing your part. Liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing out to people is like very, very key, right? Telling your friends, telling this guy, that guy, hey, this guy does Giants content, they do Yankees content, whatever. But yeah, show that lasted 4 seasons, 3 years. And again, this is not the end of live streaming. We'll still be live for the next game, probably if they head into the next series. We'll be live for the Giants, on Wednesday. So again, there's a lot more stuff we got to focus on a little bit more of like the centric rather than league-wide content because again. But anyway. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you know when a live stream pops or video drops. Appreciate y'all coming back. Again, please tune in on Wednesday as we have John Schmelk from the Giants YouTube channel and WFN coming on to recap the draft and then a lot more content from there. Appreciate you guys. Peace out. See you later. Stay cool.